Crosslines Saints are 3-0 to start the new season, fresh off a victory in their 150th anniversary game after a big week of celebration. Are they nursing a big hangover? And if you've ever experienced a hangover, you'll know the last thing that you want to see when you're nursing a hangover is the sun. And the Gold Coast Suns are their opponent tonight. Fresh off a win against the reigning premiers, the Suns come to town trying to get themselves even at 2-2. They're getting set to go at Dockland Stadium. There is a big late out, and by big I mean 208 centimetres worth of big, and that's Jared Witts, the premier, or one of the premier tap ruckman in the game. He's been replaced in the side by Ned Moyle, who's going to make his debut. He's a former Collingwood VFL ruckman, the 21-year-old, so he gets his first start tonight. He joins Bailey Humphrey. There's a couple of lads playing their first game tonight. Humphrey was taken pick 6 in last year's national draft. Also playing for the Suns in jumper number 19. There's no late change for the Saints, so the Medi subs Jack Bytel. And for the Gold Coast, it is Alex Sexton. Dry weather footy under the roof at Docklands. My name's Corbin Middlemash. Jess Webster's going to call the footy with me. Hello, Jess.
Hello, Corby. Certainly happy to be under the roof at the moment. Then over across the road at the MCG. But look, really looking forward to hopefully what is going to be a good contest tonight. Witts is a massive out for Gold Coast, but given they upset Geelong last week, I think it's added a little bit more intrigue to this one. And as for the Saints, they're absolutely flying, but I think the big question is, can they maintain the rage? So we'll see what happens tonight.
Jared Witts, most hit-outs in the competition this year and last year. So number one tap ruckman in the competition, not there tonight for the Suns. Let's see how they go without him. Luke Ball is here, of course, former captain of St Kilda, premiership player, All-Australian. Hello, Bally.
Corb, their third St Kilda Saturday night game in a row for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that they're absolutely starting to establish a brand that should hold up in any weather, any ground, anywhere, any type of any time sort of brand. So good challenge for them tonight, though. As you said, it was a terrific weekend for the club last week, and they were dominant at times against the Bombers. Can they back it up against a side that most will tip them to beat tonight, but a side that's coming off a terrific, hopefully season-defining win themselves in the Suns. And in a lot of ways, the Suns at their best play in a very similar way. So they'll run hard. We know that. They'll put speed on the ball. It's great to see Lockie Weller back to his best form last week. Witts is a big out, you're right, Jess, but there's some good raps on this young, this 205 centimetres, Ned Moyle as well. So big challenge for him, isn't it? First up against the big fella for the Saints. So I'm looking forward to it.
I saw him written up in even some trade talk during the week about potential interest from other clubs, given he's the backup ruckman up at the Gold Coast at the moment behind Jared Witts, but we get a chance to have a look at him tonight. Karen Peterson is here again, Carlton captain, 3-time All-Australian. Hello, Kaz.
G'day, Corby. It's nice to be up in the box for the first time this year. I'm really looking forward to this one. Jess and I were just chatting off air before, and when I knew that I was penciled in for this one, if you had said coming in that Saints would be on top of the ladder and Gold Coast were going to knock off the reigning premiers the week before, I might have been a little bit more excited, but I'm certainly excited now. 3 changes from the team that beat the Gold Coast. Interestingly, they are from that beat Geelong last week for the Gold Coast. So Humphrey and Moyle both on debut, and we get a look at Mac Andrew again. It's the first time he's played this year. Last time was round 23 at the end of the regular season last year, so he's another high draft pick. They still have 9 first-rounders out there, the Gold Coast Suns, and there's a few others like Flanders, for example, who's currently unavailable due to injury. So still plenty of talent in this Gold Coast team. The question mark for them in the past has been when they have a really good signature win at home, can they come to Melbourne and back it up in a game which is gettable? And despite St Kilda being 3-0, they do have an injury list as long as you're armed with some key pieces out. You're absolutely spot on, and I think for the Gold Coast, the real positive is that they're starting to really fire. They're jets in the middle. Rail's been talked about a lot. I think he's leading the competition at the moment in contested possessions. Was it clearances? I think I saw before as well. Witts is going to be the interesting out for that kind of cog to their game style that they do really well. But I mean, for mine, it's their efficiency. We know that they can win the ball. We know that they're great once the ball hits the ground. It's that last kick inside 50 to give their big blokes up forward a good opportunity. So that's what I'm really keen to see from the Gold Coast Suns tonight.
It's a great call too, Corb, because they still have a lot of that high-end talent. One of them, Ben Ainsworth, plays his 100th game tonight, we know, and it's been great to see Rao start to get back to that form that he showed early on in his first year. And Jack Lukosius is the other one, isn't he? And I like what they've done with him. They drafted as a sublimely talented key forward as an underage player, put him back behind the ball to use I suppose wait until he developed a bit more physically. He can use his beautiful kick as a strength, but last week he went forward and in the end was really the match winner, wasn't he? And he's such a difficult matchup. I think I heard a reasonable comp. He's sort of that Jack Gunston type. He's got a big tank. He gets up and back, and those forward entries that you're talking about, Kez, with him kicking the ball inside 50, usually it finds a target.
The fifth member of our team in the front row of the grandstand, he's a familiar voice on the ABC coverage. He's ordinarily on the sideline for our Melbourne Storm games. He comes over to our AFL coverage tonight. His name is Ian Cohen. Ian, welcome to Grandstand AFL.
Thanks very much, Corby. Hello, everyone, and certainly a big night here for the Saints. The toss has been run and done. Tuke Miller has decided he's going to kick towards the Coventry end. That's the right-hand end of your ABC Grandstand app. And as for Moyle, well, he comes through Q Rovers and Xavier College. Would have played a lot of football for and against the likes of Anderson and Rowell. He's got a big mop of bushy brown hair. He's got Colt Hero written all over him, and he's about to have a jump.
Here he goes to contest the opening bounce on Grandstand AFL. The Saints and the Suns. You're with Jess Webster.
So the first gamer, Ned Moyle, to contest the first ruck contest against Marshall, and that bounce.
Well, he gets a touch.
Offline.
He gets a handball. It's not going to count the stat sheet, but good to get his hands on the footy. He's a big boy, isn't he?
Not when you give it straight back to the umpire. This time, out of the middle, Tuke Miller just hacks it towards centre half forward, picked up by Roses. His hand pass missed Ainsworth, playing his 100th game. It spills to Casbolt, who hand passes defensively to Anderson from 51 metres, sinks his boot into it, right to the line, but marked on the last line of defence by Mason Wood.
So it's good start for Anderson. He's been a little bit out of form, so good start, get his hands on the ball.
Wood came off last week with a shoulder complaining, it backs up and plays, so Saints will be happy with that with so many unavailable. Short to Wanganeen Miller. He goes short to Sinclair. He's in the short sleeves tonight under the roof. Kicks long down the wing. Thumped away by the Suns, but straight to Crouch. Hand pass to Wood, who's involved again in the chain. Tumbles a kick down that City wing. Powell leaps up, grabs it, runs out of play. Higgins appealing for an insufficient intent call against young Will Powell. Umpire's not buying it, and a boundary throw-in on that City wing. The other game tonight is Sydney and Port Adelaide. If you want to listen to that on the ABC Listen app, search AFL Extra and you'll find the stream and the full call.
From the throw-in, Marshall gives it to Phillippo, hacks it inside forward 50, but the intercept mark is taken by Collins of the Suns. Kicks backwards to McPherson, who kicks it to full back, where he finds Will Powell. This time wants to use the corridor, bullets a pass to Ainsworth, who's marked on the point of the square. Playing his 100th game tonight, Ben Ainsworth. Kicks out to the dockside wing. Miller got a hand to it, couldn't complete the mark. Loops the hand pass over the top to Roses, close up against the boundary line. Hand passes backwards to Swallow from the interchange gates. Kicks up towards half forward. Moyles the target. Offhands is Ben King. Gives it to Ainsworth, who's run down. Stripped to the footy by Butler, and the Saints get it out of defence.
Wanganeen Miller just kicks for hope into the middle of the ground. There's not a heap back there, and the Suns with the numbers. Plenty of red jumpers. McPherson, hand pass away to Weller, and he kicks out wide to Hollins, who marks on that City wing, just stamps the kick short. And here's Anderson. Hand pass away to Weller, who keeps on moving. Handball to Ben Long, playing against his old team. Hand pass a turnover. Caminiti off half back for the Saints. Gives it to Wood. His hand pass back into congestion. Hollins attacks it for the Suns. Hands it to Rowell. Rides the contact. Hand pass to Roser. He's mowed down. Caminiti with the defensive effort. Ball comes free up, says play on, and Lukosius retreats back with the kick to Weller. 70 out at half forward.
Bangs it long to full forward. Casbolt from the side. He's got it. He's marked 25 out from goal, about 5 metres in from the boundary, although the free kick has actually been paid to Ben King, so he is going to line up for a shot on goal.
Well, which is a pretty good result, you'd think, for the Suns. Feel for Levi Casbolt there. Takes the contested mark and gets it taken off him.
King, the right foot snap around the corner, and the Suns strike first at Docklands. One straight to Gold Coast. The Saints yet to score. 3 minutes played in the opening term on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, you do feel I've got a bit of a beef about that, Corby. I think if it's a mark and a free kick, the mark should always rule out. I think that's a bit of a silly quirk in the game, but it gives Ben King a chance to, as we look at the replay, just the arm over the shoulder, and it's a good matchup for King. Callum Wilkie, he's giving away 3 or 4 inches, so if they can really keep that. In fact, both players, Casbolt down there as well. Got a lot of size over their direct opponent, so if the Suns are able to move the ball efficiently and quickly and get those guys separated in one-on-one contests, that presents as a bit of a headache for the Saints defenders, Kez.
There's only 3 sets of twins in the AFL. We should have had the Mackays going at it last night. We should have had the Kings going at it tonight. Of course, Max injured, not playing, but Ben is out there coming back from a serious injury last year himself as Marshall palms it down to Crouch, who just soccers it forward. Philippou off the square, collects, turns, kicks inside 50. Owens the target, free kick. And he's jumped the target by Ballard, and Mitch Owens will get the free centre-half forward for the Saints.
He's got some tricks, hasn't he, Philippou? I've watched him the last couple of weeks here on Saturday night, and he just does some things that he just really gets the Saints fans excited, and that turn of speed that he's got onto that left foot is going to be an absolute weapon for him moving forward.
Mitch Owens, the Saints' leading goal kicker through 3 rounds with 6 goals. Interestingly, they have 8 players that have kicked 3 or more, so it just shows the spread of goal-kicking options St Kilda have had through the opening 3 weeks of the season. Owens starts his drop punt out to the right and leaves it there. First score for St Kilda, 1 behind. Gold Coast 1 straight, 5 minutes in on Grandstand AFL.
Powell to kick it in for the Suns. Finds Weller in the right back pocket. Plays on immediately. Drives it long to a big contest on the wing. Casbolt worked his way to the front. Couldn't complete the mark. Now the Saints through Howard to Burns and now Stocker all by hand. The kick inside 50 over the head of Caminiti. And Collins taking the intercept mark for the Suns and kicks to the last line of defence and finds McPherson, who continues to switch and hits long.
Long lays a hand pass off to Powell. Goes running through centre-half back. Not a heap of options. Goes short to Ballard. Takes the mark, still on the defensive 50.
Early days, but you can see what they're trying to do, the Suns. They're trying to keep energy on the ball through kick mark, but playing on a lot, getting in the hands of Weller and McPherson in particular.
Across the back flank too, Weller kicks to the wing, but Wood takes the intercept mark, straightens up. Short kick to Ross. Marks outer edge the centre square. Suns by 5. They've kicked the first goal. As Ross just kicks beyond the wing and Bradley Hill takes the mark, immediately goes. Hand pass away to Wood. A long left-footed kick into the pocket for Owens. Made body contact, takes the mark, dropping to his knees. And Mitch Owens has got it pressed up against the boundary line, right forward pocket.
It's a pretty good sign for a bloke in pretty good form. His ability just to read the ball and make contact at the right moment, falling to ground and being able to hang on to a grab. It's pretty good form to start the game.
Owens snapping across the body, can't register a score. Just put it right across the goal face. So he's had 2 looks in 2 minutes for 1 behind. Suns by 5 points. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Bailey Humphrey has his first run in senior football out of Moe via Gippsland under 18. He's just come off the Suns bench.
Collins from the defensive goal square kicks to Powell in the left back pocket and then kicks further afield to Ballard. Shoots it forward and finds Hollins, who's marked defensive side of the wing on the city side of Docklands. He'll wind up and send a long ball in the King direction at half forward. The fist came from Wilkie, the free kick against him.
Yeah, same again. Just the height. Wilkie just grabbing, arm over the shoulder.
King shoots it into the pocket. Casbolt on the lead. Knocked away from him, and the Saints through Sinclair. Chip short and finds Stocker at right half back.
Missed opportunity there. Levi Casbolt, back in to gobble that up. 9 times out of 10.
Stocker goes back to Wilkie, marks in the defensive arc, plays on, hits up Marshall. Takes the mark back edge, centre square. Hand pass away to the All-Australian half-back, Jack Sinclair. Long kick down to half-forward. Tripping over his own feet is Windhager. Collects on the bounce. Shakes the would-be tackle from Collins. Closes to 48 metres out. Windhager to the goal square. Ballard kills it. Punches it through for a rush behind. Owens again the target. He's had 2 looks already. Targeted on 3 occasions going inside 50. We're only 7 minutes in. The Suns 1 straight. St Kilda 2 behinds.
Powell from the kick-in long ball. And that's a good contested mark to Collins at right half back for the Suns. And he chips it short to McPherson, who's playing some good footy in 2023. Darcy McPherson sends it long down the line. Casbolt has a couple to beat. Almost gave away a free kick for a push, but Wilkie takes the mark anyway. Defensive side of the wing, shoots it short to Marshall, who's marked on the AFL logo. City side wing, hand pass off to Clark. Shoots the pass towards half forward through the fingertips of Owens, close to the line, over and out. Boundary throw in, 45 around from the Saints goal. It's the Suns by 4 points, 8.5 played first term.
Just repeating full time at the G, the Western Bulldogs by 5 points. Richmond kicking the last 2 goals of the game, so set up a tense finish. There was 30 seconds left on the clock, 1 centre bounce, and the Dogs able to hold on So the Bulldogs by 5 in the twilight fixture. For the boundary throw in, half forward for the Saints. Cordy knocks it down to Owens through traffic. Hand pass in the Bradley Hill direction. Collins got a touch on it. Knocks it away to Holman for the Suns. Hand pass to Anderson. Sells a bit of candy and then kicks to centre half back for Weller. Takes the mark. Loops a hand pass into centre square. Miller. Harlem Globetrotters type stuff. Hand pass over his shoulder to Long. Quick transition. And Ben Ainsworth marks running back at left half forward. It took Miller. A little look away hand pass.
Yeah, it was started by some magic really from Noah Anderson to get his way out of congestion across half back. He looked under all sorts of pressure. Almost penalty-like, wasn't it, dare I say it? He stood still and everyone else moved around him. And he was able to bring the ball back inside. The Saints defenders were all queued up down the line. That's what opened up the game. And nice bit of transition play from the Suns.
17th man in club history to reach the 100-game milestone. Ben Ainsworth, a top 5 pick in his draft year. His right-footed drop punt is a little left behind. The Suns 1-1, St Kilda 2 behinds. We're 10 minutes in on Grandstand AFL. Just repeating the late change here at Docklands. Jared Witts is out. Ned Moyle is playing. He's on debut. The 21-year-old in the ruck for the Suns.
Sinclair to bring it in for the Saints. Chip short to Patton, who gives it back to Sinclair by hand from the right back pocket. And he's turned it over straight down the throat of Ballard. Left half forward for the Suns. Kick is smothered off the boot. Now they scrap for it at half forward for the Suns. Crouch. Hand pass to Stocker. He's coughed it up. Now Hollins to Holman. Shoots towards goal. It's across the face for another minor. Suns 1-2-8 plays St Kilda 2 behinds. 10.5 played first term. Grandstand AFL.
Just letting themselves down, aren't they, Bally? Just that last kick. He didn't need to rush that Holman. He had probably another 3 or 4 metres that he could have taken grass and steadied himself, but just rushed the kick. And unfortunately, you just don't want to see this come back to bite Gold Coast later in the game.
Sinclair to play on out of the goal square and then kicks long to half-back. Collins over the top, just whacks it down for the Suns. Anderson wins it back at high half-forward, gives it to Hollins, took too long. Caught in the tackle, dispossessed. Saints back away. Owens gives it to Higgins, kicks to high half-forward. Gresham marks, plays on. 55 out, pokes it into the pocket. Windhager skidding in, takes the mark. 25 out, right forward pocket.
Nice transition, set up by pressure. Again, that's been the hallmark of the Saints' first 3 weeks. That pressure rating, and can't quite recall who it was out on the wing there who laid the tackle. The Suns had the ball in their hands, and Owens involved again. Higgins, who's coming off a really good week, as we know. At first, just making the mistake of letting Gresham out goal side there too. So a couple of little mistakes from the Gold Coast Suns. Shot on goal for the Saints.
Mason Wood with that tackle that set it all up. So here's the Windhager kick. That's superb. Kicks St Kilda's first and knotted up at 8 points apiece. 12 minutes into the opening quarter. And Marcus Windhager kicks the Saints first of the night. 1-2-8 each of 2. Some breaking news from the other game. Unfortunately, it is not good news. Sydney lead 1 straight over Port Adelaide, 2 behinds. But the bad news is that Paddy McCartan has suffered a concussion early in the Swans clash with Port Adelaide. McCartan fell forward attempting to pick up a ball and was immediately dazed after landing head first in a fairly innocuous incident. He was immediately subbed out of the game. So Paddy McCartan, the number 1 pick, of course, to St Kilda all those years ago, subbed out early for the Swans. They lead the game by 5 over the Power.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking news. So fingers crossed and wishing Paddy McCartan all the very best. Hopefully it's not as bad as what it could potentially be, but game goes on here.
Back in the middle, scores level. Moyle wins the tap down to Anderson, who scraps for it against Clark, who wins the battle. His hand pass knocked away from Ross. Miller picks it up for the Suns, jams it on his boot. Inside 50, it bounces at the feet of King. Picked up by Wilkie of the Suns. He's turned it over to Oya. His hand pass finds
Humphrey.
Oh. His first shot towards goal is away to the left. Another minor to the Suns, 1-3-9. The Saints 1-2-8.
First touch for first kick, first goal club. Goes begging, Corp. He's not going to get too many better opportunities than that, is he?
No, the first kick, first behind club, they don't meet too often either, so that's you don't want to be part of that club as much.
Nope.
As Battle marks the kick out at half-back, he goes long down the wing. Off hands, it spills through to Higgins, who goes darting around the pack. Hand pass away to Marshall, kicks off a single step down to half forward. Cordy got a hand on it, spills to Weller of the Suns. Look away hand pass, Lukosius mops it up. Hand pass to Ballard, thought about going one way, kicks up the left, Owens lays the smother. Ball spills to Cordy of the Saints, hand pass to Gresham, kicks it deep inside the forward pocket, it'll skid out of play. And a boundary throw in right forward pocket for the Saints. Corbin Middlemash, Jess Webster, Karen Peterson, Luke Ball and Ian Cohen, your call team tonight at Docklands. The Suns by a point, 14 minutes in.
Ball tossed back into play. Moyle straight down to Ross of the Saints, who slipped the Miller tackle, then throws it on the left boot. What a brilliant goal! That's got the Saints fans up and going in the stands. St Kilda 2-2-14, leading the Suns 1-3-9, 14 and a half played on Grandstand AFL. Your experts are Luke Ball and Karen Peterson.
Well, he's a bit of an unsung player, isn't he, said Ross? He's the sort of guy who just gets the job done week in, week out, does a lot of the grunt work usually, and he often leads the team in tackles, but just showing a bit of brilliance there, really. We're not used to seeing that a lot of the time from him. He's not a massive goal kicker, and took Miller, the skipper, will be a little bit disappointed that he was able to shrug him off there in the tackle, the missed tackle.
It's not easy to do against Tuke Miller.
No, that's right. So, round on the left foot, and that's a lovely finish. Really a no-looker in the end. So, great finish. And the Saints have just dialed their pressure up a bit over the last 5 minutes, you can tell, after the Suns controlled that first couple of minutes of play.
First lead change of the night, free kick in the middle. It's a ruck infringement going against Marshall, so Suns will take it. Took Miller. Goes long to centre half forward, but Battle takes the mark at the back. In a queue of about 4 as he chips out wide to Windhager, got a hand on it, spills through to Ross. And the Saints running with that slingshot off half-back, kicks to a one-on-one. Cordy involved, brings it to ground, the footy comes back to him. Ballard never gave up. Ballard with a chase-down tackle, wraps up Cordy and wins the footy back for Gold Coast, half-back flank. Saints lead it by 5, 16 minutes in.
Ballard kicks backwards into defensive 50 to Weller. Kicks out wide to Andrew. Chips it forward to Swallow, who hand passes to Miller from left half back. Good kick into the middle finds Powell. Defensive side of the centre circles. Wheels around. And then lovely delivery finds Ainsworth on the dockside wing. He'll load up and send a long ball to a pack inside 50. They all fly, and out the back is Battle of the Saints. Gives it to Howard and then hand passes to Wilkie, who chips forward and finds Burns.
Sun small forwards have just got to get busy here. It's a nice and predictable long kick into that tall timber, but at the moment the Saints winning the ground ball in their defensive 50 way too easily.
Burns short to Butler. Butler inboard. Hunter Clark takes the mark. Still at half-back, looks into the centre square, and Marshall low down. Marks back edge of the centre square. Hand pass away to Stocker. A long kick to a one-on-one. Mac Andrew there with Owens. It spills through to Owens. Andrew got a hand on it. Saints away through half-forward. Hand pass to Wood. Kicks to the goal line, and Collins back with a goal-saving mark. In the end, an uncontested one on his chest.
Oh, it's a shocking kick over the head of Swallow. Rao comes in, but he's immediately brought to ground. Umpire says play on. Miller to Ballard, who jams it on the boot to exit the danger zone to Casbolt, and Wilkie in a one-on-one. Whistle on play. Free kick to Casbolt. Saints were lucky to get out of that one. Casbolt on the city side wing has kicked it straight to Wilkie on the mark. Now they scrap for it. McPherson picks it up for the Suns. It's a wobbly kick off the boot. Patton couldn't complete the mark, and now the Suns went out. Hollands kicks towards half forward, but has turned it over to Stocker. That was a scrappy piece of play, although he might have turned it over into the middle. Oya will intercept for the Suns.
A hand pass away to Swallow. Hurried kick deep forward. Lukosius down there in a wrestle. Got hands to it. No mark. Clean pick up. Roses kicks it through for a goal. Great work from the small forward. Front and centre, that's his bread and butter. And able to pop it through on the outside of the left boot. Returns the Suns to the front. 2-3 to 2-2. 18 minutes in, the Suns by a point.
Well, you called for a ball, and that's exactly what the Suns have been able to deliver. The couple of entries that they've produced in the last 4 or 5 minutes before that one then, they weren't particularly great kicks. They were long, high balls, and it was really playing into St Kilda defenders' hands. That time, they got front and centre. Clean as you like, pick up off the ground. This is textbook is what you like, and a terrific finish. So it's an area that they've made the adjustment on, and it's something that they'll reap the reward of if they continue to do it all night.
Yeah, well, we know they lose Rankin, don't they, who's going to be really hard to replace. But between Roses and Ainsworth, Holman, who's more the pressure player, Oyer, who's down there, and now Humphrey, they should know where to get to. There's a really good reference point there with those big key forwards.
Roses had kicked 5 behind so far this season. That was his first major of 2023. A 6-6-6 warning to the Saints in the middle. And from the restart, Sinclair wobbles a kick towards the wing. It's intercepted by McPherson, who snaps around the corner. It lands onto the chest of Ainsworth from half forward. Plays on, kicks to the goal square. Good contest made by Wilkie. Brought it to ground and now gives it to Howard, who shares it with Stocker. Kicks across the face of goal and finds Wanganeen Miller in the left back pocket. He plays on and kicks a long ball to Gresham. Has a couple to beat. The two Suns and Oyer and McPherson spoil each other, but they do end up killing the contest. Ball over the line for a throw-in. Right in front of us here in our commentary position on Grandstand AFL.
Just repeating, Paddy McCartan, suspected concussion, subbed out in the first quarter of the game between the Suns and the Power. Sydney lead that 2-0 early in the match. From the boundary throw-in here, Crouch first clean touch, hand pass to Hill, kicks to half forward. Suns get the spoil, spills down to Anderson. His hand pass back into traffic. No clean pick up for Hollands. Eventually Swallow extracts it to McPherson. He's under the pump, coughs it up. Hill at half forward. Hand pass to Gresham. Gives it to Butler. Runs into a dead end. Somehow got a kick away in the long tackle. Caminiti collects. Hand pass to Crouch. Advantage applied. Sweeping hand pass. Sets up Hill. And Hill drills it. The Saints snatch back the lead in a seesawing opening turn. Third lead change. Bradley Hill pops through. He's first of the night. St Kilda by 5, 3-2, Gold Coast 2-3. Luke Ball and Karen Peterson on Grandstand AFL.
Well, he must have just got his toe to it, the Saints player. I thought the umpire we had the whistle at the mouth, didn't he, to play holding the ball, but it was just surge footy, really, wasn't it, the Saints? Again, that pressure. The Gold Coast Suns had their hands on the footy several times throughout that passage of play here. Dan Butler here is going to be a bit sore. Yeah, he's winded. Well, I reckon he just got away with it. Maybe just got his toe to it. Certainly took on the tackler and Brad Hill, who, well, between Hill and Wood, it's really probably the best winging combination in the game at the moment. We know what streaks they bring to the table, and found himself out in his own in the forward pocket.
So good contest in this opening quarter. Back in the middle, Moylan ruck for the Suns. The first gamer, he's tackled by Filippo, and we've got a ball up inside the centre square.
Showed a bit, hasn't he, Kez? I like the way he's jumping it. I mean, Marshall's clearly going to have the advantage around the ground, but he's certainly competing well at the centre bounces and the clearances.
From the ball up, pinballs around in the middle, eventually picked up by Long of the Suns, who dribbles a kick inside forward 50. Lukosius has got out the back. He's got 3 to beat. He toes it forward. Doesn't go very far. Picked up by Sinclair, who gives it to Wilkie. A nice exit kick to Burns, but knocked away from him by Swallow. And it's over the line for a boundary throw in at right half forward for the Suns. St Kilda by 5.
Sinclair's becoming a problem. He's had 7 touches off the half back line, and he's reading the play tremendously well back there. His Suns are going to have to do something about him.
Still got the mullet flowing. There's a few of those out there tonight. Ned Boyle included. A ruckman out there on debut against Marshall. Marshall wins it down. There's a free kick for Swallow. Got a hand pass away, and the upset Ross sat on his back.
Mullet in your time, Bally?
No, wasn't a thing.
Swallow 70 out, kicks to the top of the goal square. Casbolt crashes the pack, spills down to Ainsworth. Had to try and hurdle the pack on his way down. Trips over. He's tackled and a ball up forward pocket for the Suns.
Channeling big Ivan Maric, isn't he?
Yeah.
Ned Boyle.
Saints by 5, up it goes again. Casbolt and Marshall. Marshall swats it down, but Rouse there, feeds his mate Anderson, hits the fat part of the footy, trying to snap from half forward. He's kicked it into the second tier, about 15 rows back, but it's out on the full and probably misses the behind post by a good 15 metres. Free kick for St Kilda. They lead by 5 points. Time on first term.
Howard in the left back pocket for St Kilda. Send it long down the line. Ballard read it best and takes the intercept mark. There's 2 kicks from goal. Will run in board. Send it to a big pack at the top of the square. King from the side. Couldn't get hands to it. Ball still live at the top of the goal square. Lukosius at the bottom of the pack. They all dive on top of him. Umpire says, give it to me. We've got a ball up 15 metres out from the Suns' goal.
5-point lead for St Kilda. Time on. First term from the restart. Marshall down to Burns. Hand pass to Stocker. Took on the tackler. Gives it to Wanganeen Miller. Tackled out of play. Ainsworth with the defensive act. Ben Ainsworth. Game 100 tonight. Pick 4 back in 2016. We're going to have a blood rule here with Matt Rao coming racing off the ground. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Matt Rowell charging off the ground at the moment. Looks like he's got a cut just to the top of the head there, so that will be treated immediately. But Matt Rowell off the ground at the moment.
And Bailey Humphrey checks back into the game. The Suns' only pick in last year's national draft, pick 6 from the boundary throwing. Casbolt too strong, grabs it out of the ruck, then tackled, trying to get it away to Humphrey. Humphrey's tackled forward pocket and the ball up 20 metres out. And the Suns' goal at the Coventry end, St Kilda by 5.
25 played, opening term. Casbolt palms it down. Crouch picks it up for the Suns. And Humphrey laying a good tackle to lock it up, and we'll do it all again. Ball up this time, 40 metres out from goal, close to the boundary line. Casbolt against Marshall and Ruck. Spills to Ross, who jams it on the boot. Down the line it goes. Owens makes the contest from behind, then wins the ball at ground level. His hand pass too hot for Hill. Picked up by Long, under pressure with the kick towards half forward. Trapped wonderfully from Roses. Gives it to Anderson, spins out of trouble, shares it with the Lukosius, back to Roses. Slipped as he kicked it. Ball pinballing towards the Suns goal. Holman has Wilkie to beat. They both dive on it. Close to the line, umpire says ball up.
Pinball's the right word for it, Jess. It's Roses slipping, taking the kick, and then Wanganeen Miller sockers it, took a deflection off Holman on the way through. It was all sort of spinning around very fast. And low trajectory kicks in that forward 50 from the restart. It's out of play.
It's not wet weather.
No.
I just feel like they need a goal here, the Suns, just to get a reward for effort. They've certainly had the better of the Saints in this first quarter.
Boundary throw in forward pocket for Gold Coast. Marshall wins it down and then follows up. His hand pass stolen though. Ainsworth scooting through. Got a handball away but straight to Ross and Kilda off the back flank. Stocker, hand pass out to Higgins. Hurried kick down the wing. And good use of the body by Ben Long. Protects the drop zone, turns it straight over. Kicked it to Butler. Hand pass to Owens. He gets it to Hill and now the Saints a chance on the counter-attack. Butler fumbles. Gold Coast win it back as McPherson receives a hand pass from Collins, kicks to half forward.
Miller did well to make a contest against Wood, but it was picked up by Higgins, who kicks it out to this dockside wing. Wanganeen Miller picks it up, tackled by Oya. Roses picks it up for the Suns. Inboard to Lukosius, who taps it forward to Ainsworth, who releases Oya. His kick is not a great one off the side of the boot, but King drops the sitter in the goal square, picked up by Casbolt, and the Suns finally get a goal. They're back in front at Docklands. 3-3-21, leading the Saints 3-2-20. 26 played opening term on Grandstand AFL. It wasn't pretty, but it was effectively balling Karen Peterson.
Well called, Jess. There was about 4 or 5 occasions in that passage of play where they really didn't deserve to get that goal. There was a smothered ball which didn't need to be smothered off the half-back line. A couple of handballs that missed the target. The kick here from the young fella Oya, I think it is. He just needed to steady himself, but Ben King, Casbolt, they were able to mop it up and finish with the goal that they deserved.
Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Matt Rowell has headed back onto the ground. He's right back in the middle in the double circles. He's got the Joel Selwood headgear on, but the electric tape, the black electric tape makes him look like a Wallaby second rower, I would suggest.
He starts the game with that, which that's Matt Rowell, of course. Nick Holman, who actually started the game with the same headgear. He receives it now. A hand pass away to Hollins. His kick cut out on the way through. Bounces its way to Lukosius. Took 2 tacklers with him. Gives it back to Hollins. Kicks inside 50. Jeffrey no mark. Spills to Humphrey. He lays it off. Swallow right in front. Kicked across the body and missed from 20 out. And up behind. Gee, should have put that through ball. His Suns by a couple of points. 3-4 to 3-2.
Yeah, they're all over them here. They're just not quite executing that last kick or last shot at goal, are they? They've left a few out there, the Suns. Dominating inside 50s though, 6-17 to 10.
Wanganeen Miller along to a contest on the outer side wing, off hands. Hill escorts it over the line for a throw-in. 80 metres around from the Suns' goal. They lead by 2. A couple minutes left here in this opening term. Of course, the Saints undefeated through the first 3 rounds. The Suns beat Geelong last week. Ball back into play. Rowell set upon immediately. Saints fans want holding the ball. The umpire gives him the benefit of the doubt. Ball up at left half forward for Gold Coast.
The SMS throughout the night, 0437 774 774. Let us know where you're listening on this Saturday night, who you're following in particular, and what your interest level is in the night. As Filippo hand pass away to Marshall. He swings a kick forward, but a little wild, puts it out on the full. The other game tonight, Sydney with the first 3 goals against Port Adelaide, and defender Paddy McCartan subbed out with concussion in the opening term. So Collins from the free kick down to half forward. Casbolt takes the mark in that launch pad, 70 out. He turns and gives it a whack to the top of the goal square. King competes, spills down to Stocker of the Saints. Hand pass to Sinclair, pushed as he kicked, got it out to Higgins eventually. Hand pass to Burns, still in the back pocket. He goes long to a one-on-one. Gresham and McPherson. Gresham wins it. Hand pass away to Hill, back to Gresham, still defensive side of the wing.
Kicks around the corner, picked up by Higgins, and now to Hill. He's tackled by Powell, dispossessed, picked up by Rowell, and runs into Higgins. Right in front of the interchange gates, dockside wing, umpire says ball up. Rowell with the headband after a blood rule. Casbolt palms it down straight to Burns of the Saints. There's some room to move in 2 minds. Eventually gets boot to ball, sends a high one towards half forward. Powell read it best for the Suns, takes the intercepting mark at centre half back.
So Will Powell, standing start, just kicks out to half back for Swallow. Fresh off his 200th game last week, the first Gold Coast player to that milestone. And short to Lockie Weller. Not a heap of options, just goes on a trot and then kicks long to a contest on the wing. Thumped away by Marshall of the Saints. Down in front of Clark. Feeds a hand pass to Hill. Still in St Kilda's hands, outside of the right boot, down to half forward. Owen spoils and then follows up off the pack. Hand pass away to Butler. He stands off it. Collins puts his head over it. Tackled, dispossessed, and that'll do us. Quarter time. The Gold Coast lead the game. You can argue they should be leading by a little more. 3-4 to 3-2. 22 plays 20. It is the Gold Coast by a couple of points at quarter time on Grandstand AFL. The goal kickers for the Suns, Casbolt, King and Roses have their 3. Meanwhile for St Kilda, 1 to Ross, 1 to Hill and 1 to Windhager. It's quarter time in the other game running concurrently between Sydney and Port Adelaide. The Swans 3-2-20, Port Adelaide 0-3-3. So a goalless opening term for the Power. Swans by 17 points there with Paddy McCartan already subbed out of the game with suspected concussion. The Suns here tonight without Jared Witts, who was a late withdrawal. There's 2 debutants, Bailey Humphrey, who's an 18-year-old playing in that sort of half-forward role, picked 6 in last year's draft, and Ned Moyle is on debut, the 21-year-old ruckman, who's filling the void left by Jared Witts tonight. Quarter time at Docklands. The thoughts of Karen Peterson and Luke Ball coming up next on ABC Radio, ABC Sport Digital, and available through the ABC Listen app for the first time in 2023. This is Grandstand AFL.
What's the best thing in the world that's also on the ABC Listen app? The footy! This season, get your footy live and ad-free on the ABC Listen app. AFL, NRL, men's, women's. Whatever you fix, we've got you covered.
She's got it! Bye-bye! See you later!
Every goal, try, mark and tackle. Called by ABC Sports' expert commentary team.
Set, bingo!
AFL and NRL, live and ad-free. Get it on the ABC Listen app.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
King, the right foot snap around the corner, and the Suns strike first at Docklands.
Owens gives it to Higgins, kicks to high half forward. Gresham marks, plays on, 55 out, pokes it into the pocket. Windhager skidding in, takes the mark, 25 out, right forward pocket. Mason Wood with that tackle that set it all up. So here's the Windhager kick. That's superb.
Moyle straight down to Ross of the Saints, who slipped the Miller tackle, then throws it on the left boot. What a brilliant goal!
Hand pass away to Swallow. Hurried kick deep forward. Lukosius down there in a wrestle. Got hands to it. No mark. Clean pick up Roses. Kicks it through for a goal. Caminiti collects. Hand pass to Crouch. Advantage applied. Sweeping hand pass. Sets up Hill. And Hill drills it.
Ainsworth, who releases Oya. His kick is not a great one off the side of the boot, but King drops the sitter in the goal square, picked up by Casbolt, and the Suns finally get a goal.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
First time all year, St Kilda trail at quarter time. It is the Gold Coast Suns who lead it by 2. Three-time All-Australian Karen Peterson, former All-Australian and Premiership player Luke Ball with you on Grandstand AFL.
Entertaining quarter, wasn't it, Kez? Yeah, I really like what the Suns brought to the table. From early on, it was quite evident they like to get, and we saw it last week, of course, they really like energy on the ball, don't they? And it starts across half-back, and albeit they were pretty good in the clearances too, I think they've just shaded the Saints, which is a credit to young Moyle, the way he jumped in and competed, and the guys at ground level as well. And he was by Casbolt later on in the quarter, but yeah, a lot of their run and drive has started across half-back, and they love getting the ball in the hands of Weller, and McPherson's playing good footy, young Powell's playing good footy as well, and they were able to control the footy for large parts of that quarter. And really, the last piece of the puzzle for them is that connection between mid and forward, isn't it? And we know they've got the timber down. I mean, it's great. Ben King's coming back. We know that, getting back to his best. Casbolt's down there, and then we've mentioned the Smalls and the job of the Smalls in sort of filling that void that an Isaac Rankin's left. But yeah, I really liked the look of them, what they're able to do. The Saints, their pressure was there at times, but when the Suns are able to control the ball, they're able to take that side of the Saints game out of play. So in the end, they probably did deserve, 18 inside 50s to 11. So that's a concern for the Saints from the Saints' point of view, because if they keep putting that sort of pressure and keep maintaining that territory, then they should be able to score. And again, we saw that last week. They just need to be able to find more clean or efficient ways to goal, don't they? But yeah, really like the start to the game from them, and the Saints have got a challenge on their hands. Yeah,
they've got a bit of work to do, particularly defensively. And for me, it was the tackles inside Gold Coast forward 50. There's 7-0 in the game, so just the forward pressure, and I suppose that reflects a little bit of the amount of time that the ball's spent in Gold Coast forward half, but the way that they were able to tackle and give themselves another opportunity when the ball did get in there. The one thing for Gold Coast, and you mentioned it well, Paulie, was just their inability to finish on the scoreboard. They definitely left a few out there in that first quarter, so they're certainly looking to mop that up in this second quarter, because we've seen over the last couple of weeks that St Kilda have the ability to flick the switch and turn the pressure up and score quite quickly. So hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt Gold Coast, but there is a lot to like. The one thing I think as well, they've been number 18 ranked in the competition for marks and number 18 for conceding inside 50. So there's been some really glaring issues in Gold Coast game over the first couple of weeks, but to start the game, they're already plus 10 in marks, so they're controlling the ball across half-back, as we've mentioned. Just, again, we've talked about that efficiency going forward, and as I said, they're plus 7 inside 50. So the two areas of huge weakness for them, they've been able to get on top of early in this game. So for them, they're going to look to do more of that, and for St Kilda, it's just going to be able to get control of the ball. And we've already mentioned Sinclair and the likes off the half-back line. They're the real generators. They're the ones that get the motor going. So they'll certainly look to those guys. Stock is another one that probably had a bit of a quiet first quarter, who's been good in the last couple of weeks. So St Kilda will be putting the heat on those guys to really set them up moving forward.
No Jared Witts tonight, which we've touched on. So he's the leading hit-out player in the competition over the last 2 years, and yet the centre break's still going the Suns' way, 4-2. The clearance is about even. Start of the second term, Suns by a couple of points. There's a hit out for Moyle, but sharked by Clark. He just kicks into open space at right half forward. Ball pitches, bounce, runs away from Higgins. Andrew collects for the Suns. Hand pass away to McPherson. Tumbles a kick down the wing. Here's Holman, still in the Gold Coast hands. Slick hand pass to Swallow, gives it to Anderson. Hurried kick up over halfway. Roses collects, then just drops it in the tackle from Patton. Regathers, gives it to Ainsworth. Floats a kick to Lukosius.
Have a shot.
Just Velcro for hands. He sticks up the mitts and clunks it.
His teammates just stop, don't they? As soon as he takes that mark, anywhere with 50 to 60 out, they all start pointing to the goal. So not only has he got confidence in his own ability, but geez, his teammates back him in too.
A long run up here too. Brett Lee style approach. Would he kick 173 metres, I think, last week, Kez?
Yep.
Whew. Up on the Gold Coast, and dry weather conditions under the roof at the Dome. So Lukosius puts his foot through the drop punt. He is struck that pure again, but just a little to the left. behind. Massive kick of the footy. 3-5 to 3-2. First score of the second quarter goes to the Suns. They lead it by 3 points.
5 goals, 2 for Lukosius last week against Geelong. Sinclair brings it in for the Saints. Finds Patton at right half back. Takes off, kicks down the line, but it's a turnover. Sam Collins standing in the hole for the Suns. Marks centre wing, dockside. We'll send it back to half forward. Casbolt and Lukosius in the vicinity. It's off hands, picked up by Burns. Gives it to Battle. He's stripped of it. Umpire says it's a free kick to the Saints. So Battle, the recipient, at right half back.
Didn't play a minute of junior footy in the defensive half, Josh Battle, and now playing straight as a defender at AFL level. Goes along to the wing. Cordy forced to spoil for the Saints. Anderson grabs it in the same motion, jams it on the boot down to half forward. Clean bowls Casbolt. Wanganeen Miller up. She tackled by Casbolt, just got a kick away. Tried to handball it out, turned it into a drop punt. Spills to Casbolt, under pressure, gives it back to Swallow. 70 out, kicks inside the forward 50. Carries the head of Lukosius. Unkind bounce for Wilkie. King trying to get boot to ball, and a comedy of errors.
It was too far down.
And in the end, he just inadvertently sockers it through for a rush behind. The Suns 3-6. St Kilda 3-2. 4-point lead for the Suns, and probably saved Cal Wilkie a few blushes as well. 3 minutes into the second term.
Wanganeen Miller up, brings it back in for the Saints and finds Hill in the right back pocket. He's just held up, and we'll have to send it long to a big pack on the wing. Wood flies uncontested in the end and pulls in the mark defensive side of the wing, and 50. I'm sure was that was for Swallow looked around and sort of said, what was that for?
It was big Ned Moyle. He's a bit unlucky, I think, for mine. He ran across a bit slow out of the congestion after the mark was taken.
The kicker I did it on. I love that.
So Mason Wood, he's 51 metres out from goal. There's plenty of numbers inside forward 50. Has to be precise with the kick. Shoots it into the pocket. It's knocked away from Cordy. Hill can't keep it alive. We've got a throw in 40 around from the Saints goal. They trail by 4 points. 3.5 played. Second term on Grandstand AFL.
First 4 goals to the home team in Sydney, so the Swans 4-3, Port Adelaide 4 behinds. 23-point lead for the Suns early in the second term there. As it is here, Suns by 4 from the boundary throw-in. Half forward for the Saints. There's a scrap on for the footy. Clark somehow trickles a kick out, but straight to Powell. Hand pass back into congestion. Rowler fumble. Regathers. Kicks out of the defensive arc. Holman swats it down for the Suns. To the advantage of Swallow. Hurried kick forward. King competes with Wanganeen Miller. King took his eye off the footy. And Wanganeen Miller will take the free on the wing.
Quickly kicks forward to Battle. Just forward of the interchange gates. Loads up. Sends a high ball inside 50. Andrew from the side with a big fist. Down to McPherson, close to the line, over and out. Ball in, 50 around from the Saints goal. Just Webster and Corbin Middlemass calling the action this evening. Karen Peterson and Luke Ball, your experts. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
He's keen to see more of Mac Andrews' vertical leap.
He's athletic, isn't he? Whew.
Boundary throw-in, Suns by 4. Still half forward for the Saints. Cordy down to Clark. Got a hand pass out. Rao bangs bodies with Owens. Ump lets them roll. Weller extracts it. Hand pass to Hollins. Hurried kick. Turns it over. Marshall dropping down to his knees. Takes the intercept mark. Between wing and half forward. Rowan Marshall to kick into a congested forward 50. Thumped away by Collins. Back to centre half back. Wanganeen Miller picks it up. Never broke stride. Jams it on the boot. Goalwood misses everything. Out on the full. No change to the score. Suns still by 4 points. 5 minutes into the second term.
Powell kicks across the face of goal to Andrew in the left back pocket for the Suns. Shoots it forward, but he's turned it over. Kick had too much on it from McPherson. Clark marks, squares it to Gresham, not 15. Has to hand pass to Butler inside forward 50. Gives it back to Clark. He's run out of room. Does fend off an opponent. Hand passes defensively to Ross from the centre square. A long bomb to a dangerous position. Andrew fists it down, but straight to Gresham of the Saints, who misses to the left. Just misses. Suns lead rather, cut to 3. Suns 3-6-24, the Saints 3-3-21. 6 minutes played, second term. Still yet to see a goal in this quarter.
There's a few sort of almost moments for both teams.
Yeah, there is.
particularly in this second quarter, but a bit of the theme of the night as power plays on from the kick out, goes long to that City wing, and Dougal Howard just punches it 5 rows back. Out of play, high half forward for St Kilda. Just getting another look at some pictures from the game in Sydney. Paddy McCartan subbed out with concussion earlier, and now Tom McCartan rode a pretty heavy bump. Looks like he's staying out there, though, for the time being. 23-point lead for the Swans. They've kicked the only 4 goals. Hurried kick forward here by the Suns. It'll end up with Casbolt. Mark dropped by Howard, put himself under the pump. The hand pass ends up out of play from Casbolt. And a boundary throw in between wing and half forward.
He did well, Casbolt. He had to make a contest and he was totally out of position, but did well to bring it to ground and then followed up with the effort. Probably could have been pinged for not keeping the ball alive, but did very well.
Suns by 3 from the throw-in. Moyle taps it down. Oya picks it up, gives it to Miller. Back to Oya, close up against the boundary line. Kicks to half forward. Wayne Miller takes the intercepting mark for St Kilda. Kicks to Hill on the wing. It slips through his fingers. Weller out the back for the Suns. Gives it to Miller. Now hand passes to Oya. From half forward. Kicks a high ball into the arc. Battling best position for the Saints, but it couldn't complete the mark. Picked up by Anderson of the Suns. Waddles it towards goal for a miraculous effort. And we get the first goal of the second term the way of Gold Coast. 4-6-30, leading the Saints 3-3-21. 8 minutes played second term on Grandstand AFL. Luke Ball and Karen Peterson.
Well, again, it's hard work, isn't it, Kez? But he's got a bit of magic about him, Noah Anderson. We've seen him a couple of times across half-back just get out of trouble, and this time he's got a great sidestep. And, I mean, that was a bit of luck in that, obviously, but he knew where the goals were. There's no doubt about it. And you mentioned it, Corbell. A lot of almost stuff to be frustrating for the Saints coaching staff at the moment. They had 4-on-1 there in that marking contest and weren't able to mark it or kill it.
They just spoiled each other, didn't they?
Yeah,
they flew across each other. And
that's right. Ball got over the back, and Anderson was good enough to get it through. So they're certainly on top around the ball too at the moment. The Suns through the midfield. Took Miller's had a terrific start to this quarter.
Suns doing it all without their captain Jared Witts. A laid out Moyle takes his place in the team. Miller at the coalface here. Hand pass to the goal kicker Anderson. Kicks to centre half forward. Knocked away by the Saints. And then a second time as Sinclair just punches it up into the front half. Higgins onto it. Hands it to Windhager. Kicks inside 50 and Caminiti hitting up out of the goal square. Marks true centre half forward. 45 out.
It's the advantage of clean hands, isn't it? In this day and age, this modern game. Twice, and it was Higgins below his feet. Beautiful handball to Windhager, and a lovely little inside 50 kick to Caminiti, who we know is very athletic, isn't he? And kicks it well. So he'll back himself here. It was a good bit of play from Jack Sinclair too to belt the ball forward out of congestion into space.
He's won 44% of his one-on-ones in the AFL this year. Caminiti, a teenager, he's a big kick of the footy, misses here out to the right. And by the way, that 44% makes him number 4 in the AFL through the first 3 weeks. He wasn't even on a list until February. 19 years of age, playing his 4th game tonight in as many weeks. 9.5 minutes into the second term, Suns by 8 points on the back of that behind.
Weller from the kick in, boots it to the outer side. Casbolt and Marshall in the contest, brought to ground. Crouch picks it up and dispossessed by Holman. Umpire says play on. Anderson over the top of Crouch and eventually says, I'll have it.
David off the SMS. Love your call. I love your call. Got the game on, the radio on, the TV off. Rather listen to Grandstand's accurate descriptions. Very exciting. And the ball's gone back out of play. Apologies, Jess. Rob off the SMS says, listening to the team on a train from London to Bristol. Although I was a lifelong Saints fan and therefore a pessimist, I'm quite anxious about how things are going. Great call so far, team. Off the SMS from Rob. Boundary throwing. Ball comes out the back, St Kilda's way. Hand pass away from Clark to Sinclair. Jams a kick down to half forward. Running back is Ballard. Tackled by Owens. He threw his head back. The ump wasn't buying what he sold. And as a result, we'll have a ball up 40 metres out from the St Kilda goal at centre half forward.
I mean, Saints fans not happy, but certainly no prior opportunity there. And you've always got to give the guy winning the ball an opportunity. So I think a good decision.
From the stoppage, Miller had a fresh area picked up by Higgins of the Saints. Gives it to Windhager. Fakes one way on the outside of the boot. Missed away to the left for a minor. Suns 4-6-30. The Saints 3-5-23, 11 played, second term, Grandstand AFL.
He's got a bit of magic about him too, Windhager, doesn't he? He's a great size, but his ability to get out of traffic.
Broke his
Exciting stuff.
Broke his right hand in the pre-season. Still got some bandages on that. As the kick from McPherson out to half-back to Collins, heads down the wing. Stocker keeps it alive for St Kilda. Hand pass to Wood, to Clark, just inside the boundary line, dockside, gives it back to Wood, retreats by hand to Howard. Shares it with Patton. Howard gets it back, hooks a kick beyond the wing. Philippo stood in front of the pack, crunched by Collins. Ball spits all the way through to McPherson, runs into Andrew, his teammate. Ball comes out, Gresham wins it, hand pass inside 50. Sinclair collects, shoots goalward, hasn't got the trip and punched through. On the goal line by Ballard. Behind for St Kilda, 4-6 to 3-6. Suns by a goal, 12 minutes played, second term.
4 behinds now to St Kilda in this second term as well. Brings it in for the Suns, looking for Andrew. Battle knocks it away from him, spills to Burns, who gives it to Butler, shoots the pass into the left forward pocket and finds Higgins. It's 40 out from goal, tight angle to the left.
Went around the corner a couple of times last week in his 4 goals. He's a little bit closer than this will really test him. Have to kick at 45.
5 goals on the season for Jack Higgins. Bends it around the corner beautifully. And scores are back level at Docklands. 4-6-30 apiece. 13 played second term. Karen Peterson and Luke Boyer experts.
Jeez, he gave that an absolute ride, didn't he? He nearly jumped into the stand as he made contact with his boot then, but what a terrific finish. If I was the St Kilda coaching staff, at half-time, I'd be talking very much about the entries inside forward 50. You can see here, Butler just lowered his eyes and hits his teammate 20 metres, without breaking stride. The same thing on the entry before, it was from Windhager to Caminiti. When they lower their eyes and hit the lead up, good things are happening for them. It's when they're banging it long, and you've got big guys like Mac Andrews sitting back there, who's a very much a see-ball, punch-ball kind of defender. It's not working well for them. So I think for St Kilda, that's what they need to do more of.
Good call out, Kaz, ranked 16th in the competition for scores from inside 50s, leading in. Moyle with the connection down to Rao, kicks out to half forward from the restart for the Suns. Patton collects, he's tackled immediately. We'll have a ball up as Rosas locks onto him. 60 metres out from the Suns' goal, kicking to the Lockett end in his second term. Moyle wins it down, the Suns' ruckman, but straight to Philippo. Hand pass to Burns, high up and under. Butler trying to claim the mark. Says not 15. Tackled, dispossessed. Rosas grabs the footy, kicks it deep in the forward pocket. Spills to King, tackled immediately, lost it. Casbold has another go for the Suns, puts it on the boot, smothered by Wilkie. Ricochets out of play, right forward pocket for the Suns. Scores level, 14 travelled second term.
Suns by 2 at quarter time. Saints undefeated through 3 rounds of the 2023 season so far, as the umpire flicks the ball back into play. Cordy against Casbold, who shoved Cordy out of the way. Couldn't take it cleanly. Humphrey can, the first gamer, snaps towards goal and misses for a minor. He's had a couple of shots on goals now. Suns by a point, 4-7-31. The Saints 4-6-30.
Oh, untidy kick-outs coming back. The Suns through Jeffrey. Hand pass to Hollands. Wanted the free kick. He's going to get it. He bent down to pick up the footy. He was waiting for the contact from Battle. He got it, and the umpire immediately plucked out the free kick. And now Elijah Hollands will take the free, 40 out, left half forward. He's wide out.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Bally. Battle didn't do much wrong then. He held his ground, didn't make the contact. I reckon that's a bit unfair.
This is really the dead pocket here at Docklands. Elijah Hollands kicks it right across the face. Lukosius competes top of the goal square. Dropping it cold. Burns collecting the footy as Humphrey shoots over his shoulder. High floating footy, doesn't score. It's marked next to the behind post by Battle, and stepping over the mark is Hollands. He got the free kick a moment ago, and now he gets away 50. And Elijah Hollands is going to be marched to centre half back, and Battle's coming with him with the Sharon.
Suns by a point. Battle kicks out wide. Wood in a 1-on-1 against McPherson. Strong hands, takes the mark just forward of centre. Call to play on now, so kicks laterally to Patton. He's marked on the edge of the centre square. all but one player ahead of him, and that one player standing in the centre circles as Patton kicks to Howard and then shoots it forward to Stocker. Now he'll load up and send it inside, a congested forward 50 to a big pack. Out the back is Long. Slipped the tackle, umpire called play on. He got it to Miller, who gives it to Weller. Bangs it out of the danger zone to a contest on the outer side. Wilkie picks it up for the Saints, shares it with Sinclair. Now Patton loops the hand pass over the top to Butler, close against the boundary line at left half forward. Hooks it around the corner. And it's touched off the boot as I think it's Filippo in the bottom of the pack. Powell over the top of him. Ball up. 50 metres out from the Saints goal. Suns by a point.
3 lead changes in the first quarter. Suns led by 9 earlier this term, which was a game high. And as Jess said, now just a single point in it. Gold Coast lead it midway through the second term. Moyer wins the hit out, but straight to Burns of the Saints. Hands it to Hill. 60 out at half forward. Kicks inside 50. Caminiti in from the side, and the teenagers got it again.
You love to see that, don't you? When he really launches at the ball, he's pretty hard to stop. He's got, it looks like anyway, he's got the long arms, doesn't he? And
yeah.
Just trying to work out here, he's direct, direct opponent there, ran into the back of his teammate actually, which gave him the separation, and he clunked a beauty.
At a Carlton's VFL program, Caminiti on the set shot, missed earlier. He doesn't here. Straight through it goes. St Kilda back ahead. 4th lead change of the night. And Caminiti has got 4 goals in as many starts. St Kilda 5-6-36, Gold Coast 4-7-31, Saints by 5, 18 played second term. Up in Sydney, Port Adelaide have their first goal, but they still trail the Swans by 17 halfway through the second term there. Kes Peterson and Luke Ball.
Yeah, you were right there, Ball. I think actually Gold Coast was set up pretty well behind the stoppage there. It was Darcy McPherson who was sitting in the hole, but Caminiti, just as you said, there's nothing better than seeing a big athletic full forward in full flight and just launching. And we mentioned a couple of moments ago just about sticky hands, and the ability to have one grab at that just makes all the difference, as opposed to what's going on down the Gold Coast forward 50. It's the complete opposite.
Back in the middle, Marshall taps it down to Ross. Gets out of traffic, wobbles a ball to half forward. Owens got rid of Andrew and goes to ground. His hand pass missed the target. Swallow laying a tackle, ball free inside the Saints forward 50. Rao gets boot to ball, tumbles it out of the arc, but it's going to come back. Ross intercepts, lowers the eyes, looking for Owens, knocked away from Collins. Picked up by Anderson, who gives it to Andrew in the right back pocket for the Suns. Kicks to the outer side, over the head of Lukosius, through the fingertips of Wilkie. Lukosius tracking back, so is Mally Roses. Kept the ball alive, tapped it forward. Picked up by Joel Jeffrey. His hand pass to Lukosius from right half forward, kicks into the corridor. And the ball is dropped by Hollins, and now the Saints win out.
Marshall, hand pass to Wood at centre half back. He shares it with Burns. Kicks out into space in front of Owens. Got Andrew for company. Owens collects, turns him inside out, burns him off. Mitch Owens kicks to centre half forward to Filippo. Gee, Owens won his one-on-one with McAndrew cold. And now Filippo, who's a long kick of the footy, can try and bang it through from outside the arc.
Yeah, one for the review tape, isn't it, for McAndrew. Just couldn't let him get goal side. Had to corral him to the boundary, and it was a bit too easy. And then he looked a bit gassed, actually, Andrew, and sets up this chance for another prodigious kick of the footy.
Picked 10 in the draft, the long lefty, as Mateus Filippo won't have the trip here. They try and whack it through on the line. Owens keeps it alive. Hand pass away to Caminiti, gives it to Butler. He's caught. Holding the ball, the chase down tackle from Powell. He'll get it back pocket for the Suns. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
It's almost like a switch has been flicked here. The Saints fans are now up and off their plastic, especially after the Elijah Hollins free kick and then the 50. The noise has gone up tenfold.
Powell long to the outer side, intercept mark taken by Wilkie. Hand passes to Patton from left half forward, kicks to the arc, knocked away from Owens. Anderson's in there for the Suns, but Owens comes back in and wins the footy. Then hand passes to Gresham, gives it to Ross, who's run down and dispossessed. Rowell picks it up for the Suns. They're under pressure in their back 50. Hand pass to Hollins. His kick around the corner. Jeffrey has Wanganeen Miller at a beat, who tackles him over the line. And we've got a throw-in right in front of us here in our commentary box on Grandstand AFL. Saints by 5, 21 played, second term.
Yeah, they've lifted, just starting to win some of the 50-50s here, the Saints, and just missing a few tackles too. The younger Suns players, they need their experienced players around the ball here.
Boundary throw in, Marshall wins the head out down to Crouch, hand pass to Wood, a hand pass meant for Windhager in front of he and Rowell, and it pitches and runs out of play, so a throw in again in front of the Suns bench. Also, Kaz, I heard your comment before about nothing better than a key forward in full flight from one of the AFLW's premier defenders.
Hey, I played on the wing.
I've never thought I'd hear it. From the boundary throwing, comes away if Hunter Clark receives a hand pass, gets a little short kick to Higgins, tumbles the ball down to half forward. Windhager can run onto it. Rowell makes sure he doesn't. Wins a contested ball. He's tackled, dispossessed. Gresham extracts it. Handball top of the goal square for the Saints. Powell knocks it out straight to Filippo. Hand pass back to Gresham. Gives it off. Higgins from the goal line. Bangs it through for his second of the night. And the Saints just kept it going forward at all cost. And it results in a game-high 11-point lead. Higgins has a couple, both in his second term. St Kilda 6-6-42, the Suns 4-7-31. They've kicked the last 3 of the game, St Kilda.
Yeah, they just wanted it more, didn't they? Like Charlie Ballard, I reckon he'd want that effort again. He sort of gave up. Must have been on Higgins who was running through. Bit sidestepped and just overran the ball. That wasn't particularly great from Gold Coast, but really well done. And the speed of ball movement from St Kilda, just to keep it moving forward, as you mentioned, Corby. They did fantastic. I actually got a bit delayed then. I was watching Filippo get stuck into Rowell. I found that quite fascinating. I don't mind the confidence of the kid. He went back before and he burnt one of his teammates, Windhager, who was going through the middle of the ground. I don't mind the confidence.
Back in the middle. Moyle laying a tackle on Sinclair, almost in the back. Umpire says no. The ball up just outside the centre circles. Moyle against Marshall in the ruck. Spills to ground. Swallow tracking it. That's almost a throw, and the umpire did see it. So free kick to the Saints. Hunter Clark. And they drive them forward once again. Kicks to the outer side to the run of Wanganeen Miller. Just forced to hold up.
Port have kicked 3 in a row in Sydney, so all the goals to the Paddington end of the ground, and all of a sudden they're within 5 points of the Sydney Swans. Plenty happening here. The Saints with their end up. They lead by 11 points as Hill marks that kick and then drives it inside to forward 50. Punched away by the Suns. Oya overruns it. Marshall had it, lost it. And so away go Oya. The PNG lad lays the tackle and the ball spills out of bounds half forward for the Saints. 9-point lead for Gold Coast earlier in the quarter. St Kilda have responded with the next 3 in the game. We've had 4 lead changes in total. St Kilda lead it by 11 points, time on second term. Hurried kick forward by Miller, bounces up to the wing. Clark had it, lost it, spills down to Roses of the Suns. Hands it away to Ainsworth, kicks it out to Ben King. Too far in front of him, Wilkie got there first and took an easy mark at half back.
Shoots it forward to Howard, just required distance. His hand pass inboard to Wilkie. Goes for a run, then kicks long down the line. Sinclair read it to perfection from left half forward. Kick inside 50 is a good one, hits Higgins. 40 out from goal left of centre.
He's become a hell of a player, Sinclair, hasn't he? It's off the rookie list. I remember in his debut year, it was back when the old rules in place, Paulie, where he could play and then there wasn't a spot available on the list for him, so he lost his place because he wasn't eligible to play a senior game.
Yeah, Mr. Ferris winner now. He's been released in the midfield a bit more tonight. His ball use has been so important.
Higgins around the corner again from 40 for his third. He's on tonight. And the Saints, all of a sudden, out to a game-high 17-point lead. 7-6-48, leading the Suns 4-7-31. 25 played now, second term on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, just put the foot down a bit, haven't they? Just the younger players have started to look a bit tired as this quarter's gone on. He's got an uncanny ability to find space, doesn't he? Little pockets of space in the forward 50. He really does remind me of an old teammate of mine, Stevie Milne. He's got a long way to go, obviously, to get to that level, but just his ability it's forward craft, really, isn't it? Just to find little pockets of space inside 50, most of the time anyway, not getting in the way of the big guys. And one thing he's done in the last couple of weeks is go back and kick them, albeit around the corner, Corp.
Yeah, well, Cordy, he was just well helped and finding those pockets of space because Sinclair turned and played on. If he had gone back over the mark, those pockets wouldn't have been there.
Crooked bounce back in the middle. Lifelong Saints fan, Jack Higgins, minus a few years he was at Richmond, of course, but was asked last week, Bally, in the post-game, who his favourite player was growing up, and you won't be surprised to hear it was Stephen Milne, his favourite player as a kid. From the restart, Noah Anderson gets the centre break, heads out to half forward. Mason Wood never took his eyes off the foot. He got some front-on contact, advantage applied. Stocker by hand to Gresham, hand pass to Ross. Feeds it back to Gresham. Forward of halfway, kicks inside the forward 50. Getting back, Cordy, got a hand on it, gets it to ground. Butler centre half forward, hand pass to Owens, hands it to Sinclair, he's mowed down. Great chase, Anderson wins the footy, links up with Hollands, who can kick from centre half back up to the wing.
Kicks and hope, really. Jeffrey has to make a contest, and he does really well to bring Dougal Howard to ground, who picked up the footy in the first place. Umpire says play on, eventually goes out of bounds. Let's get down to Ian Cohen on the boundary.
You're talking about Jack Higgins. He finished with 16 disposals and 5 goals, 10 score involvements in round 5 last year against the Suns. They need to get a leash on him really smartly.
Absolutely. A throw in, Miller was dispossessed. Umpire says play on, picked up by Filippo of the Saints. Kicks into the corridor. And McPherson beats Higgins in the one-on-one. Hand passes defensively to Powell, who bangs it inside forward 50 for the Suns. Out the back, Jeffrey pounced on it, runs into goal, and it just gets there. No, it was touched on the line. Fantastic work from Josh Battle on the last line of defence, as the Saints fans around Docklands applaud that effort.
Decided to grubber it through from the top of the goal square rather than kick her in the air, where there's relatively few defenders. As Owens gets up on his own teammate to take a superb mark. Leaping on Mason Wood. Gee, got a bit of extra lift and kick when he was in the air, Mitch Owens. He's had a good night again this evening. Heads down the wing. Marshall knocks it away down to Rowell, who's tackled, and the ball up on the wing. Talk me through what Joel Jeffrey was doing. Bally?
I'm not sure he meant to dribble it, did he? I thought he just got it really skinny off the boot. But, an opportunity gone begging.
Saints by 16 from the restart. Higgins grabs it. Mac Andrews got him. And the ball up again on the wing.
Couldn't need it anymore either, the Suns. Just need to find a way to get a mark inside 50, don't they? Just control the footy for a minute.
Suns led by 9 points earlier in the quarter. And the Saints with the last 4, they lead by 16. Contest on the wing. Ross around the corner towards half forward. Collins in position A for Gold Coast. Takes the intercepting mark. The left half back.
Port have kicked the last 4, by the way, Jess, in Sydney. So they now lead the game by a point over the Swans.
Wood back with the flight to make a contest on the wing. Spills to Stocker, who shares it with Battle. Now hand pass to Windhager. Back to Stocker. Back to Wood. Close up against the boundary line. Centre wing. And it's going to be a downfield free kick because Holman knocked over Wood, and there's a bit of push and shove going on as Stocker's getting involved for the Saints. Meanwhile, Filippo is going to have a shot on goal, 45 out, 45-degree angle to the right.
It was a little late, but I'm not sure it probably needed the remonstration the way that, look, if there's one thing that Liam Stocker will do, it's going to back his teammates up, so can't fault him for flying the flag.
Mateus Filippo to make it 5 in a row for St Kilda. Absolutely flushed it from 50. St Kilda lead by 22 points, 8-6-54 the Suns, 4-8-32, 30 played, second term Grandson AFL. Your experts are Karen Peterson and Luke Ball.
Oh, it hurts, doesn't it? It really does. Yeah, we'll have another look at it. Oh, there wasn't a heap in it. He was sort of off balance, wasn't he, on his right foot, Mason Wood, as he kicked it anyway. So just those little things that kill you. The Jeffrey missed goal at one end, and it's a 2-goal swing when the Saints have really dominated the last 10 or 15 minutes of this second quarter. So disappointing for the Suns, all their hard work over that first quarter and a half. And it looks like they're going to go into half-time with a pretty reasonable deficit.
The tongue out.
The tongue out.
A wave of the finger from Mateus Filippo. Back in the middle, Marshall palms it down to Sinclair. It's again attended another centre bounce. Squeeze a little kick out, straight to Rao, hands it back to Sinclair. Now he gets the centre break. Hurried kick to half forward, and Collins, playing in front of Cordy, takes a mark on his chest. The Suns defender, 31 minutes into this second term. St Kilda by 22 points. They did trail by 9 earlier in the quarter, but have strung 5 unanswered goals together. 4 lead changes in the contest, and St Kilda by a game-high 22 at the half. 8-6-54 the Saints, Gold Coast 4-8-32. The goal kickers to half-time, Jack Higgins has 3. They all came in that second term. And then singles for Ross, Hill, Windhager, Filippo and Caminiti. Meanwhile for the Suns, 1H for Anderson, Casbolt, King and Rosas. The Gold Coast here tonight without Jared Witts. He was a late withdrawal, so isn't playing the 208-centimetre giant who leads the competition in hitouts. Ned Moyle, a 21-year-old ruckman, is on debut, as is Bailey Humphrey, an 18-year-old who was picked 6 in last year's national draft. Other than that, the 2 Medi subs, Jack Bartel and Alex Sexton, neither of them used in the game so far. At half-time, a 22-point lead for the undefeated Saints. Meanwhile, up in Sydney, the Swans kicked the first 4 goals. Port Adelaide have kicked the next 4. It's almost half-time. All 4 of Sydney's goals came in the first quarter. All 4 of Port Adelaide goals have come in the second quarter. And there's 60 seconds left before half-time in that game. So 4-6 to 4-5, Port Adelaide lead the match by a point. The interesting talking point, though, happened in the opening 10 minutes, in which Paddy McCartan was concussed, hitting his head on the ground in a rather innocuous incident. So, unfortunately, a guy who has a long history of concussion and seemingly picked up another one, subbed out of the game in the first 10 minutes tonight in Sydney. Half-time here at Dockland, St Kilda by 22. The thoughts of our grandstand AFL experts, Karen Peterson and Luke Ball.
Well, it has been a really entertaining first half, hasn't it? We spoke about the Saints, or we have been speaking, Paul, about the Saints' running power over the last 3 weeks. And to me, it was really evident as that quarter went on. And we know that the Suns have, are certainly still a young and developing team, and the Saints have got some young players, there's no doubt about that as well. But it just seemed to me as that quarter went on, the Saints' running power took over. And with that was their ball use and pressure, some mistakes from some particularly younger Gold Coast players opened the door in that last 10 minutes for the Saints to capitalise on. And it's those small forwards that really look like they're on top of the ground, aren't they? We spoke about Jack Higgins continuing his form on from last week, getting on the end of a few, and Owens is really starting to emerge as a serious player, isn't he? Filippo getting on the end of one. There, it hasn't really been the key forwards, has it, at either end that have done the damage today. So, and Sinclair was the other one who started it. I felt probably 10 minutes into that quarter, Kez, that the Suns were on top around the ball. They just weren't getting any reward for effort going forward. And Saints shuffled a few things around. Sinclair went into the middle, started to give them some real run out of there. And in the end, as I said, just that running power seemed to get on top of the Suns in that last 10 minutes of that quarter.
Just quickly, Kaz, you've spoken about that a bit during the year, Bally, the running power, and it's something that stood out in the first 4 weeks. We talk about it with Collingwood, talk about it here with St Kilda. So is it a fitness thing, do you think, that they've worked on it over the summer, they work on that, or is it a willingness and a sort of a buy-in and a willingness to run?
Combination. I think they've got some naturally... so it's a bit of personnel. They've got some guys who can really run. Like, that's their one Wood. So Mason Wood, obviously, Hill, Sinclair, these sort of guys. I think Windhager's an elite runner. So it's that. They trained it. Ross was really clear with it over the off-season, wasn't he? So this, we potentially don't have on paper anyway, the star-studded, bona fide A-grade talent than other teams. Okay, so what can we do? Well, we can focus on our strengths. So we're going to run harder than any team. We're going to chase and tackle and those sort of things. So to answer your question, it's a combination of things.
Yeah. They did spruik it, didn't they? I remember chatting to Brendan Goddard, who of course is part of our team, and BJ was saying before Christmas, 13 of our guys have run best 2Ks, and we're all thinking, here we go. We started with the team chat already, Kez, and pumping up the usual sort of stuff out of the pre-season, but we've seen the cause and effect of it already.
Yeah, the training the house down kind of cliches come through pretty strong in that time. But as you said, I guess the proof is in the pudding, and that's what we're seeing out there. I think part of it as well is trusting your teammate, knowing that if you get going, that you're going to have mates that are running beside you, and if pressure comes forward, you know that you're going to have someone release or be able to release the handball off to. So part of it is the fitness and the actual capability of being able to run that hard. But then it's knowing that if you run yourself into trouble, that you're going to have someone there and go through with it. And in that second quarter, when St Kilda started to get on top of it, it's no surprise that it was the Mason Woods 9 touches, Hunter Clark had 9 touches and 4 clearances, Sinclair continued What I liked about Sinclair in that second quarter, though, is that his possessions were starting to be in the front half. A lot of it in the first half, because Gold Coast had more ownership of the possession. He was actually driving from the back half, and whilst he was still getting his hands on the ball, it was in an area that he wasn't as damaging. In that second quarter, his possessions were all in the front half, and a lot of the time it was him that was kicking inside forward 50 as well as Ross. So they certainly got on top, and they were able to get on top. I spoke at quarter time about their tackles inside forward 50. They were 5-1 in that quarter. And again, it's a result of where they were getting the possessions and where they were able to maintain their game through that second quarter. But the ability for them to turn up the heat, and we spoke about through the quarter, clearly there was a flick that got switched, and that pressure gauge just went through the roof. And that's infectious. And when one person does it, your teammate does it, and all of a sudden it just starts to roll and roll. And that's how that pressure gauge just got blown out of the water for Gold Coast in that second quarter. So really impressive by St Kilda. It's almost what we expected them to do. We've seen them in the first couple of rounds of the season be able to maintain that, and they were really slow in that first quarter, as we mentioned, but their game style got on top, and Gold Coast really dropped off in that second quarter.
8-6-54 St Kilda, Gold Coast 4-8-32. At half-time, the Saints by 22 points. They've kicked the last 5 goals in the match. Up in Sydney, by the way, it is half-time and scores are level, so 4-6-30 apiece. Swans kicked the first 4 goals. Port Adelaide have kicked the last 4. Paddy McCartan subbed out of the game in the first 10 minutes with concussion. Half-time here, more from Luke Ball and Karen Peterson coming up. Jess Webster in commentary with me off the SMH Jack in Brisbane. Enjoying listening to your great broadcast. Jess is a great part of the team. She's great at depicting the scene and pressure on the ground. We love having Jess with us off the SMS 0437 774 774 is the SMS number, and Ian Cohen on the boundary. This is Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio, News Radio, Sport Digital, and we're also now streaming through the ABC Listen app. Just look out for the AFL button. If you'd rather listen to the game between the Swans and Port Adelaide, jump on the ABC Listen app, bottom right-hand corner, use the magnifying glass, search AFL. You'll see ABC AFL Extra, and that's the call that you're looking for if you want to listen to the Swans and Port uninterrupted. So take your pick tonight, either the Saints or the Suns, or the Swans and the Power. Second half action around the corner. We'll also tell you what's going on in the world of AFL footy. 2 big games already completed today. There's some fallout for Carlton ahead of their blockbuster gather round opener in Adelaide. One of their big key forwards looks like he may miss. We'll tell you more about it in just a moment, but first, the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
Hello, this is ABC News with David Rowlands. Taiwan's Defence Ministry says it will respond calmly, rationally and with a serious attitude after China announced 3 days of military drills around the island. The PLA says it will conduct combat readiness patrols and exercises in and around the Taiwan Strait. It comes after Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen held a meeting with the US House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy in Los Angeles during the week, angering Beijing. Israel is further bolstering security following a car ramming attack that's left an Italian tourist dead and 7 other people injured amid rising tensions. It follows an earlier incident in which 2 British Israeli sisters were shot dead in an ambush in the occupied West Bank. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stressed Israel's resolve against any attacks.
Our enemies are putting us to the test again, and once again they will discover that we stand together, united, confident in our righteousness, and we will act together with the complete backing of our forces.
Russia says its forces have shot down a missile fired from Ukraine towards Russian-controlled Crimea. There's no independent confirmation yet of the claim. Russia's TASS news agency quoted an official saying debris fell on a Crimean town, but no damage or casualties were reported. Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine in 2014, and Kyiv has demanded that Moscow hand it back. The FBI in the United States has been forced to apologise after detaining the wrong man while conducting a training exercise in a Boston hotel. The BBC's Gary O'Donoghue takes up the story.
Picture this. You've had a long day and you decide to get an early night in your hotel room. You're asleep on the 15th floor and all of a sudden, boom, there's a bunch of people calling themselves FBI agents at your door, forcing their way in, and, wait a minute, they're taking you into the bathroom and handcuffing you in the shower. They then proceed to interrogate you for around 45 minutes before you persuade them that you're just a regular Delta Airlines pilot and not the kingpin of an international terrorist organisation. Such was the scene on Tuesday night in Boston, when the hapless FBI agents got the wrong room during their training exercise. The FBI says it takes the incident very seriously and is conducting an investigation.
French President Emmanuel Macron has called for mutual learning and dialogue between the academic communities of China and France. He was speaking to students and staff at Sun Yat-sen University in the southern Chinese city of Guangzhou on the final day of his 3-day state visit to China. As part of his opening remarks, Mr Macron greeted the audience in French, Mandarin and Cantonese. It's the French president's first state visit to China since 2019. Western Australian police say an alleged sexual assault that occurred in the goldfield city of Kalgoorlie on Thursday night is being treated seriously by forensic detectives. They say a woman was walking in the area of Kingsmill Street in Victory Heights between 10:30 and 11:30 when she was sexually assaulted by an unknown man. Some personal items were also stolen. The alleged offender has been described as being dark-skinned, about 20 to 30 years of age and approximately 160 to 170 centimetres tall. Goldfields Esperance Superintendent Stephen Thompson says incidents like this are rare, but sexual assault detectives arrived yesterday to assist local police.
Now, this would have been a horrendous and traumatic incident for the woman involved, and we are doing all we can to help her through this. Everyone has the right to walk around their community freely and without fear.
Lucasfilm has announced 3 new live-action films in the Star Wars franchise. Tui Ong explains.
Actor Daisy Ridley, who played protagonist Rey in the sequel trilogy, will reprise her role in one of the films, which will be set 15 years after the rise of Skywalker as Rey builds a new Jedi Order. The new projects have been revealed in London at the annual Star Wars Celebration fan convention. The second of the 3 coming films will delve into the past to tell the story of the first Jedi to wield the Force, while the third will follow an escalating war in the New Republic. No release dates for the movies have been announced.
And in the NRL, Penrith has recorded its second big win in as many weeks, waltzing home against Manly 44-10 at Panthers Stadium. Dylan Edwards scored a hat-trick in the first half as the Panthers raced to a 32-0 lead by half-time. It's Penrith's third win of the season.
Victor Moa, Boomerang, Hills Hoist, one-day cricket. Aussies are an inventive lot.
It couldn't have been made anywhere else.
Tony Armstrong is rolling open the shed door to explore Aussie creations.
They tell us who we are and the times we live in.
And in there lies the charm.
From Speedos to Stubbies to the humble meat pie.
Enjoy the show.
Great Australian stuff. Starts Tuesday, April 11 on ABC TV and streaming on ABC iView.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Boyer from half forward kicks a high ball into the arc, battling best position for the Saints, but it couldn't complete the mark. Picked up by Anderson of the Suns. Wobbles it towards goal for a miraculous effort. 5 goals on the season for Jack Higgins. Bends it around the corner beautifully.
Boyer wins the hit out, but straight to Burns of the Saints. Hands it to Hill, 60 out at half forward, kicks inside 50. Caminiti in from the side, and the teenagers got it again. At a Carlton's VFL program, Caminiti on the set shot, missed earlier. He doesn't here. Straight through it goes. St Kilda back ahead. Pound knocks it out, straight to Filippo. Hand pass back to Gresham. Gives it off. Higgins from the goal line. Bangs it through for his second of the night.
Higgins around the corner again from 40 for his third. Mateus Filippo to make it 5 in a row for St Kilda. Absolutely flushed it from 50.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
And now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
It was a strong finish to the first half for St Kilda. They kicked the last 5 goals of that second quarter, so after trailing by 9 points earlier in the term, they lead by 22 at the half. It is St Kilda 8-6-54, the Gold Coast 4-8-32 on Grandstand AFL. Corbin Middlemass, Jess Webster, Luke Ball, Karen Peterson and Ian Cohen with you on Grandstand AFL tonight. We're on ABC Radio, News Radio, Sport Digital, and also streaming through the ABC Listen app. Now in the other game tonight, it is half-time. Paddy McCartan was concussed in the first 10 minutes, subbed out of the game. Charlie Gardner, the footy boss, spoke to the TV broadcaster. He said Paddy is doing okay. Obviously, they're not taking any risks when it comes to him. He was clearly dazed. Luke Ball and Karen Peterson, you both saw the vision. It's always scary whenever any player is concussed, but particularly given Paddy's history, and which has been well documented of concussion, and he was out, very dazed, trying to get back up.
We've sort of, given how well he played last year, we almost got to the point where it was a bit of a thing of the past, wasn't it? But yeah, it was. It's always going to be sort of hanging over. I mean, it's hanging over all players at the moment, isn't it? But him in particular, given his history. But hopefully it's okay. Yeah, hopefully it did look reasonably innocuous, but they can be. We know that. We know they certainly can be. So hopefully they. He'll be in the very best of hands, obviously. Hopefully it's only a very, very short-term thing.
Scores level at half-time in that game, 4-6-30 apiece. Sydney kicked the first 4 goals. Port Adelaide have kicked the last 4. Now in the afternoon fixtures, the Western Bulldogs by 5 points over Richmond. It was a tense finish. The Dogs were able to put a gap on the scoreboard in the first quarter. Richmond caught fire in the second term. Looked like they were going to run away with the game, and then a seesawing affair in the second half. The Dogs worked their way back into it. They led by 3 goals in the waning moments before Richmond popped through 2. Time on in the final quarter, and it set up a bit of a nail-biting finish. The Dogs had to try and navigate the last 33 seconds at a set of bounce. They did so they hung on to win by 5 against Richmond. They get themselves to 2-2. Meanwhile, Richmond are 1.5 wins through 4, so 1 win, 1 draw, 2 losses. And in the afternoon game, Adelaide by 39 points, Kez. That was a big margin in the end against Fremantle. So the Dockers have just 1 win to show for their first 4 weeks, and that was against a depleted West Coast team.
It's a bit disappointing, isn't it, for Freo? A team that won a final last year, and hopes were very, very high for them. It's a bit of a disappointing start. They were an incredibly exciting team to watch last year. I really enjoyed watching them, particularly live, and just the way that, particularly the speed of ball movement that they were able to do. It really caught a lot of teams on the hop. So disappointing start for them, and for those Freo supporters, I hope they can get themselves going. But I think the win for today for me was the Bulldogs. They've been pretty disappointing, really, when you think about it. A lot of pressure has come onto the club, via the media, and I'm sure internally as well. So that was to be 2 down on the bench to finish the game out. A couple of injuries. That's a good win. Good win against the Tigers.
Tom Lynch was involved in a collision with Alex Keith. Keith subbed out of the game with concussion. We'll wait and see if he has anything to answer for with the match review officer. Did you see that, Jess?
Yeah.
Any problems?
Saw it. I think so. I mean, shoulder, head, concussed, sort of high, medium impact, if not high impact, and of course the concussion as well. So I think he might be in a bit of trouble.
More problems for Richmond on the injury front. So Robbie Tarrant, who played VFL today, lasted less than 10 minutes, hurt his groin. So he's had a hip complaint in the off-season and now a groin injury, first game back. Biggie Newen hurt his ankle. Caleb Bradkey broke his hand, and Tom Brown hurt his wrist. So they had a heap of injuries in the VFL as well, Richmond, to go with their loss at AFL level today. Harry Mackay, speaking of the match review officer, he's going to have to try and contest that charge if he hopes to play the Thursday night fixture to open Gather Round. Baller, you'll be working that game for us. His forearm connected the side of the head of Harry Sheasel in the waning moments last night. So he kicked 4 goals, and then it was a really mindless incident.
Didn't need to do it. No, they just like when you're 6'7" and you're chasing a 6-footer. It was. It's disappointing for them.
Careless and medium. Obviously, we've seen Michael Christian this year bump up the impact for potential to cause serious injury for incidents with the head. So Carlton will have a tough time trying to beat that. Forearm to the side of the head of Sheasel. As it stands at the moment, he will miss that huge clash, which has been sold out for weeks against the Crows on Thursday night. And just lastly, the teams for Easter Monday are in. Chad Wingard expected to be the sub for Hawthorn, so Bramble out, who was the sub last week. For Geelong, Duncan, Kolajasny and Stanley all back. 3 premiership players out go. Ollie Henry omitted, Tanner Bruin omitted, so one of them may be the sub. Segler's been managed. Effectively, Stanley's back, so they don't need Segler. And Sam DeConing out injured, which we knew on Thursday night. So they're the changes for the blockbuster game on Monday at the MCG. Second half action upon us here on Grandstand AFL, St Kilda and the Gold Coast Suns, and the Saints kicking the last 5 of that second quarter. They lead it by 22 points.
Yeah, speaking of sub, just saw Alex Sexton. He's got the sub vest on for the Gold Coast Suns. Just surprised me to see him before too long in this half if they can't score.
Second half underway. Marshall palms it down for the Saints. Sinclair battles with Miller for the footy. It's picked up by Patton. He's stripped of it. Crouch goes in for the Saints. Now Higgins toe pokes it off the deck. It spills to Ross. He sends a high ball towards half forward. McAndrew with a big fly against Sinclair. Reels in a nice mark for the Suns at left half back.
Beautiful mark. Talked about the vertical leap earlier, just straight up onto the shoulders of Sinclair and pulled it down in the one-on-one. And now Casbolt, the sea just parted for him, marks in a pack and then turns and heads inside the forward 50. Ben King trying to get there on the bounce. Wilkie turns him inside out, wins the footy. Hand pass to Stocker. Kicks across the back line to Crouch. The busy start to the season, off 32 last week against the Bombers. Shares it with Battle. Hand pass to Stocker, back flank. Kicks down the wing, dockside. Owens the target. Battle spoils. Owens lands on him on the way down. The ball ends up out of play and a throw in front of the Suns bench.
Road, wasn't it? Charlie Ballard become very much accustomed to seeing him do that. Ben King just needs to, he's just going to have to grit his teeth here and just find a way to compete. Kez this quarter. I know he's coming back from an knee, but he's just got to find a way to win or halve these one-on-ones with Wilkie.
Shallow throw in, Moyle down to Miller, back to Moyle, kick inside forward 50. It's dropped by Sinclair. Jeffrey pounces for the Suns, shares it with Holman, gives it back to Jeffrey, dribbles through a goal. And that is the perfect start to the Suns in this second half. They peg one back and stop a run of 5 in a row to St Kilda in the second term. Saints, 8-6-54, the Suns, 5-8-38, 2 minutes played, third term on Grandstand AFL.
Well, you can eat your words, Bally, because Joel Jeffrey just that was a nice finish. I mean, it's probably another one that it was one of those ones that if he had missed it or someone had got their finger to it, you'd be sitting here laughing. But that's a great finish, and he's done well. Your point on Ben King's an interesting one. He only had 4 touches in that first half. I was going to pose a question to you at halftime and I forgot, but would it be worth swapping the roles that him and Casbolt are playing? So Casbolt's being that high half forward leading up. King's being dumped in the forward 50, and they're just putting it on his head and hoping for the best. I wonder if flicking that around the magnet might make a bit of a difference to him.
Saints by 16. Marshall back in the middle, palms it down. Crouch hands it out to Ross, tumbles a kick to half forward, and McPherson backpedaling gets there first for the Suns. Hooks a kick back out of the defensive 50. Hill punches it back towards the arc. Here's Long, grabs it, fends off Philippou, couldn't get past the second tackler. He's caught. Philippou hung on, Gresham came to lend a hand, and Mateus Philippou will earn the free kick. 60 out at half forward, just sets it up to the hot spot. Caminiti has it knocked away from him. Owens takes on the tackle of Rowell. Got a hand pass out, but straight to McPherson. Short kicks a turnover again. Wood for St Kilda, hand pass to Ross, floats a high bomb to the top of the goal square.
Collins fisted it down, could have taken the mark in the end. It's picked up by Lukosius, who's brought to ground. Umpire says, give it to me. Ball up, 15 out from the Saints' goal. Saints by 16, 3 minutes played, third term. Moyle against Owens in the ruck. Owens wins that tap down as Sinclair, right foot snap in the pocket, is an absolute beauty. And just like that, the Saints find the response. Lead back out to 22, 9-6-60. Gold Coast 5-8-38. 4 minutes played, third term, Grandstand AFL. Karen Peterson and Luke Boyle, your experts.
Well, you mentioned the young fella in the ruck against Mitch Owens, who's showing us the full bag of tricks tonight, isn't he? You'd almost say that was a hit out to advantage. And Jack Sinclair, he's playing midfield now, so you're a bit disappointed if you're Stuart Dew and you've let Jack Sinclair, really no body pressure at all, just run around the back of the stoppage and have a clear shot at goal like that. So disappointing there for the Suns, who look like they'd come out and started this second half well. Saints with all the answers at the moment.
He's kicked 48 goals in his career, which I'm probably surprised about, given he...
Well, I reckon he did start as a small forward.
And then obviously
got pushed back.
Now an All-Australian halfback flanker in his 145th game. Centre break here for the Suns. Comes out wide as Swallow collects on the wing. Hand pass to Weller. Kicks wide and Anderson marks. In front of the interchange gates. Pulls the trigger back inboard. Sinclair awake to it. Steals it. Saints a chance downhill. 2 bounces. Hands it to Caminiti. 40 out. Goal. Oh, they make you pay on the turnover. St Kilda cash in and Caminiti slaps some high fives as he runs to the bench. Sinclair kicked the last goal and now he forces the turnover that sets up the next. Saints by 28, their game high advantage grows. 10-6-66, Gold Coast 5-8-38.
Well, Jack Sinclair can absolutely take a bow on that one. He just read the ball so well. We're just singing his praises off the half back line, or what he is off the half back line, and that was a great example there. He just read the ball so well, able to influence the intercepting mark and then just took off. And what he did really well was he drew the defender to him, and we talked at half-time about running in numbers, and Caminiti did just that. He ran with Sinclair and was able to get the handball and run into an open goal.
Telegraphed it a bit, didn't he, Noah Anderson? He's been super, but just telegraphed that kick inside.
Suns win it out of the middle. Moyle to Miller. Kick into the pocket over the head of Jeffrey. And Battle takes the intercepting mark for the Saints in the left back pocket. Sinclair up to 18 disposals now. 4 inside 50s and a goal. Another wonderful performance from him as Battle kicks long down the line through the hands of Filippo. Andrew picks it up for the Suns. Wobbles a kick inside the arc. Casbolt in a one-on-one. Couldn't complete the mark. Follows up with a tackle. Now Ben King involved for Gold Coast. Gets the hand pass out. Dives on top of the footy once more. Umpire says, I'll have it. Ball up. 35 out from the Suns goal. They trail by 28.
By Matthew Nichols just chucks it up inside the forward 50. Casbolt wins their hit out. Tracking the footy is Miller. Got a hand pass out to Anderson, half forward. Feeds it back to Andrew. Hand pass to Weller. Puts on the Jets and then kicks goalward from 52 out right to the goal line. And Wilkie punches it through. Crashes off the goalpost and a rush behind. 10-6 to 5-8.
Certainly hasn't lost any speed, Lockie well, has he?
Oh, yeah. 7 minutes into the third, Saints by 27.
Wanganeen Miller from the kick out. Short to Battle, who kicks it short to Howard. Still inside defensive 50. On this dock side of the ground. Called to play on now, Howard. Who kicks short back to Wanganeen Miller. Just the required distance.
Been good, hasn't he? This will be his 16th kick. I certainly want him doing that.
He winds up and bombs it long down the line. Filippo in the contest, got hands to it, couldn't complete the mark, follows up with a strong tackle against Holman, locks the foot on Rowell rather. He's like doing his best Nick Holman impression with that some head bandages, and we've got a ball up on the wing.
I love Matty Rowell Corb. He's only had the 7 possessions. I feel like at the moment he's the most tackled player in the competition.
Yes.
He wins so many hard balls, but I reckon he's had the ball 15 times. He's only had 7 possessions.
Suns have the footy, but they're going laterally, and in the end, Holman's locked up in the middle of the ground.
He's just got to find a way, and it'll come, just to get a few more easy possessions.
Yeah.
He's just such a workhorse. Love the way he plays, but
Marshall palms it down to Crouch, just trickles a kick to centre half forward. Cordy hits up, tackled immediately. A ball up front edge of the centre square. For St Kilda, kicking to the lock at end. In this third quarter, 8 minutes old, Saints by 27. Chucked up again. There's Moyle on debut, palms it down, but opposing ruckman Marshall gets a kick inside 50. Cordy collects, tackled by Collins, lost it. Comes out in front of Burns and Hollins. Hollins wins it centre half back. Hand pass to Rowell. Hurried kick into the centre square.
Casbolt makes a contest. It's brought to ground. Picked up by Clark of St Kilda. Gives it to Wanganeen Miller. Flares the kick out wide into the path of Gresham, who marks on the wing outer side. And kicks it short to Crouch, who's marked between wing and half forward. He then kicks short and finds Burns. Still a couple of kicks from goal. This time, Burns long into the pocket. Cordy over the head of him, out the back. is long for the Suns, evades a tackler, then just jams it on the boot, out of bounds on the full. Free kick to St Kilda at right half forward. They lead by 27, 10 travelled, third term.
So Burns can pump it back into a congested forward 50, just lowers his eyes and hits up Gresham. It marks 45 out against the boundary line, right half forward. And for Jade Gresham, he believes he's got a range, he's unlimited, so I like his chances from out here, even though his right peg will be against the fence. Hasn't got one so far tonight. Played his 100th game the last time these two teams met, round 5 last year, which was also Easter Saturday. 45 out, and he kicks to the goal square. It's whacked through for a rush behind. In fact, no, it's not. It's the other side of the behind post. It's out of bounds, so we'll have a throw in deep forward for St Kilda. Opposite pocket, Saints by 27. Meanwhile, Port Adelaide, first goal of the third term, so the Power leads Sydney by 5, early stages third quarter.
Ball back in a play. Moyle for the Suns palms it down. Picked up by Collins, who gives it to McPherson from the back pocket. That's also off the side of the boot, out of bounds on the full. And Brad Hill to take the free kick for the Saints. He's quick to play on, but he has to come back as Gresham takes the mark. Hill this time. He kicks inside 15. Ken and is called back to get back on his line. Saints fans a little restless in the stands. Hill this time plays on from the arc and decides, I'll just go myself. Outstanding finish from Brad Hill. He's got a couple. And on the third attempt, he decides, I'll just go for home. As he comes to the bench, to the warm applause of the St Kilda fans. And why not after that effort? Saints by 33, 11-6, 72. Suns 5-9, 39, 11 play third term on Grandstand AFL.
That should have been his plan all along, I reckon. I think he was just having a lend of everyone, just going, I think I'm doing the team thing once, I'm going to do it twice. Nah, just kidding. I'm actually going to...
Well, he faked them out. I mean, He shouldn't have been able to do that. They had to have someone awake to that. He was able to really pinch about 15 metres, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
What ended up being not an easy shot at goal, but a shot that a player of his skill we know can kick. So danger signs here for the Suns.
Back in the middle as Cordy wins it down, and then Ross just taps it back to Cordy. His hand pass a turnover. Holman jams it on the boot. And again, another turnover by Ford as Battle marks at centre half back. He comes wide to Stocker. Fingertips to it, no mark. Spills through to Hawego Oya, who collects. He's dacked and taken out of play. He's pinned holding the ball. Gee, lost his strides and the footy. And Burns will be rewarded. Just kick short to Stocker. Saints want to go. Hand pass to Butler. Hand pass to Ross. Hurried kick inside the forward 50. Back Pedley Owens. Marks plays on. Hand pass to Cordy. The party continues. Cordy joins the growing goal kickers list. And St Kilda have it out to 39 points. They've kicked 9 of the last 10 in the game. 13 gone, third term, 12-6, plays 5-9.
Well, it's party time a bit now, isn't it? Just again, that running power, the ability to run in waves at the moment. And it started really with that fantastic chase and effort from Ryan Burns. They all got to him, and that'll certainly please the coach. Acts like that are certainly what cement your spot in this team, and that was a start of it. But yeah, just at the moment, there's just more Saints jumpers around the footy, aren't there? That's just a sign of their work rate, and it's just overpowering the Suns at the moment.
Looks like the Suns might have pulled the trigger on their sub. We'll get down to Ian Cohen in a moment as from the centre, Burns shrugs a couple of tackles. Wobbles a kick to half forward, bounces in front of Owens. Higgins taps it into the path of Owens, who burns Ballard, throws it on the boot from 40. Are you kidding me? Oh, these young Suns, Saints rather, when they get up and going, they put on a show. 45-point lead, 13-6-84 to the Suns, 5-9-39. 14 played third term on Grandstand AFL, and you can add that to the growing highlights reel of Mitch Owens.
That was incredible. Jeez, he's got an absolute leg on him, hasn't he? The speed to be able to get to that ball, control it, then put it through. Sometimes when it's your night, it's your night. And for Mitch Owens at the moment, it is absolutely his night. For a 19-year-old kid in his 11th game, it's incredibly impressive what he's been able to do.
It's his first goal, but he's been so heavily involved, Kaz, you're right, in everything that's happened in that front half tonight for St Kilda. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Yeah, there's been heavy negotiation. Reece Shaw, the Gold Coast runner, has been in the ear of Alex Sexton for a long time now. He'll get his chance. Joel Jeffrey, number 40, will be sitting on the pine.
10 of the last 11 for St Kilda. A centre break here for the Suns as Swallow heads down to half forward. Knocked away by Rosa. Spills to Lukosius. Hand pass to Holman. Shoots goalward. Didn't quite get it. And in the end, Wood can't handle it. Fumbles it out of play and will have a boundary throw in forward pocket for Gold Coast. So just repeating what Ian told us. Joel Jeffrey subbed out. A tactical sub, and Alex Sexton in the sub for 3 consecutive weeks into the game for Gold Coast. From the boundary throw-in, Casbolt first touch, but Marshall gets it out of defensive 50. Owens clever, taps it to Higgins' advantage. He was tackled without the footy. It'll come back to Jack Higgins. He's backed up his 4 from last week with 3 already. They just had the air knocked out of him too by McPherson on the way through. A little slow to get up and take his kick at half-back for St Kilda. Saints by 45 midway through the third.
Kicks long down the outer side, but it's intercepted by Will Powell. He's quick to hand pass to Anderson. Jamson on the boot, no one home. The Gold Coast inside forward 50, and it's an easy mark for Howard. Kicks across the face of Golda Wilkie, who continues the switch to Ben Patton in left back pocket. He chips it forward to Wangani Miller. It's over his head. And the Suns have the numbers. It'll be picked up by Ainsworth. Hand passes inboard to Miller. Chips it inside forward 50, but again, King couldn't get there in time, and Wilkie takes the intercepting mark for St Kilda.
Gee, that's a disappointing entry again. Really didn't think his way through that, Miller.
Oh, Wilkie short kick to Ross, got to him on the half volley, put him under pressure, hand pass to Hill. Off the back flank, turns and kicks down the wing. Plenty of red jumpers. Long fly, spills the mark. Slips out the back to Higgins. Pulls the trigger to the corridor. Marshall marks for St Kilda. Hand pass to Crouch. Swings a kick out the broadcast wing, to the outer wing rather, and Wood takes the mark. Short kick to Owens. Competes in the air, no mark. Falls out the back to Crouch. Kicks top of the goal square. Ballard takes the intercept mark. Last line of defence for the Suns.
Oh, it's a dangerous kick. Looking for McPherson, who did well in the end to take the mark as Hill was applying the pressure. And just decides to take a breath for a moment and then kick across the face of Golda Weller in the left back pocket. And it's pretty stagnant for Gold Coast at the moment. Weller long down the outer side. Casbolt has 2 to beat. Battle gets hands to it, couldn't complete the mark. It spills to Hollins. He's wrapped up by Battle. Now evading the contest nicely as Owens gives it to Patton. Gives it back to Owens from centre wing. Outer side, chips it to half forward. Caminiti made a contest, and it spills to Weller of Gold Coast. He kicks it back to where it came from. Casbolt again has a couple to beat. Brought to ground, roved by Owens. Hand passes inboard to Marshall inside the centre square. Loops the hand pass over the top to Ross. Shares it with Stocker and flares it out wide to Hill, who's marked at left half forward.
He's kicked a couple already tonight. Of course, the best and fairest winner under Ross. And Fremantle colours back in 2017. Kicks inside 50, good placement. Butler can't pull it down off his fingertips. Through to Humphrey on debut. Hand pass away to Long. Just bombs it away in the middle of the ground, and Wilkie takes the intercept mark. And now the Saints can reload again out to the city wing. Battle marks. Short kick up into the front half for Windhager. Here they go again, St Kilda. Windhager waiting for the right option. He's just going to kick long to a contest. Caminiti backpedaling, floated through the front of the pack, no mark, spills to Swallow the Suns. To Miller by hand, handball away to Humphreys, can't collect cleanly, gives it back to Miller, kicks out of the defensive arc.
Casbolt had a fumble and then his hand pass went straight to Butler. He kicks into the pocket, Cordy. In a contest against Ballard, couldn't reel in the mark. Ball alive inside St Kilda's forward 50. Higgins gives it to Owens. He's kicked towards goals across the face. He was pushed after he kicked it. No free kick. So the behind stands. Margin 46, 13-7-85 to the Suns. 5-9-39, 18 play, third term.
Ben Long against his old team for the first time tonight. Just tried to throw the boot at that. Had a fresh air shot. Probably pretty happy the kick didn't go through from Mitch Owens. Looks like we got a blood rule, so just going to wait for Brad Crouch to make his way off the ground. In fact, it's not Brad Crouch, it'll be Mitch Owens. The Saints fans are awake to the top of the evening he's had. Been excellent. Their leading goal kicker through 3 rounds. He's up to 7 for the season, but so many good things in and around the front half of St Kilda. Missing so many of their starting 22 and key members of that forward 50. As play restarts, Weller takes some ground, kicks it long to the wing, and Stocker just knocks it out of play. So a throw in right on halfway. Saints by 46, time on third term. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Well, Levi Casbolt is the Suns player being attended to, but the blood must be minuscule at the moment, so I'd expect him to be back on pronto.
Ball back into play. Moyle against Marshall in the ruck. It spills to Rowell of the Suns. He gets boot to ball from the wing, sends it to a contest at half forward. Holman did extremely well against Howard to reel in the mark. Quick to play on, shoots the kick inside forward 50. Wilkie again takes another intercept mark. Hand passes to Stocker, who hand passes to Wanganeen Miller. Has a bounce inside defensive 50 and measures a pass looking for Ross. Didn't get there as Anderson picks it off for the Suns, and it's going to be a 50-metre penalty against Ross. So Anderson is going to be marched to within probably 30 metres if the umpire's generous of goal.
Characteristic error, wasn't it, from Wanganeen Miller? He's kicked the ball very well tonight. He's worked hard, Noah Anderson.
So the Suns... sorry, Bully.
I was going to say, he's one guy who can certainly hold his head up high at the moment. 23, so his 24th possession.
To break a run of 5 in a row from St Kilda, Noah Anderson, 20 metres out, directly in front. Just about sums up this third quarter for Gold Coast. He's missed. Margin 45, 13-7-85 to 5-10-40.
That wasn't pretty. St Kilda out to half-back, Clark short to Hill. Noah Anderson, son of Dean Anderson, who played for St Kilda and, of course, a couple of premierships at Hawthorn. Goes long at the wing. Cordy spoils it away, straight down to Miller. Swung around as he kicks forward. Ainsworth leaps up, takes the mark. 60 out, half forward for the Suns. He's just going to kick it into space in the hot spot. Punched away by Wood, down to Wanganeen Miller. Hand pass to Wilkie, sweeping Polyfarmer, hand pass out to Burns on the back flank. And he's off, has a bounce, peels off the back flank, spears the kick to Butler, who takes the mark, defensive side of the logo, City wing.
Plays on. And then a rush kick to half forward. Caminiti in the contest. It spills to Weller out the back. Palms off Filippo, then wheels around and kicks to McPherson inside defensive 50. Just takes the mark. Hand passes off to Miller. His hand pass put Anderson under pressure, and now they've turned it over. Ross. Hand passes backwards to Clark from the centre square. Kick inside 50. Sinclair tries to tap it on. It spills to Ballard of the Suns, who flares the kick out wide to Holman, who's marked defensive side of the dockside wing. And he shoots the pass forward to Ballard, who's marked in front of the interchange gates. In fact, it's Lukosius.
Hasn't kicked one tonight. Kicked the career-high 5 last week. And their win over the reigning premiers, Lukosius goes to King in a one-on-one. Wilkie knocks it away from him. Ross off the back flank for the Saints. Hand pass to Stocker. Kicks down the wing. Reece Shaw right there, the runner for the Gold Coast, has to get out of the way quick, smart. And in the end, Ballard and Cordy share it out of bounds.
Still barking instructions. It's Reece Shaw.
Scores level, by the way. 6 minutes to go in the third up in Sydney, so 38 points apiece. Sydney kicking the last goal of the game, 5-8, 38 apiece. Here at St Kilda by 45. 6 minutes to go in the third here as well from the boundary throw-in. Swallow, hand pass to Anderson. Hung it out to hand pass, decides to kick himself inside forward 50 for the Suns. Howard just taps it down to Sinclair. A little fumble. Eventually gathers for the Saints. Defensive goal square. Hand pass to Wilkie. Gives it off to Howard, who can kick the half back.
It's a lovely pass to find Mason Wood at half back. He just holds it up. Now decides to take off. Send it long down the line. Ballard against Owens. Ballard did well to bring it to ground, but goes to ground, and then Owens picks it up. Spun in a tackle from Weller. Dispossessed. Butler laying a tackle against Ballard, and we've got a ball up between wing and half forward. St Kilda in attack. They lead by 45. 23 played third term on Grandstand AFL.
Just repeating sub made for the Suns, so Sexton into the game. Joel Jeffrey, a tactical sub. Taken out halfway through this third quarter from the stoppage. Swallow kicks it forward, and Humphrey It's a good mark. Picked 6 in last year's draft. Bailey Humphrey takes the mark on the City wing. Did his knee midway through his draft year. He's still going top 10 overall. Kicks to centre half forward. Hands on it from Ainsworth. Slides through to Lukosius. Still with the Suns. Hand pass to McPherson. Hands it out to Will Power. He loads up. Kicks a cannon from 50, but he's offline. Behind. Saints by 44, 13-7 to 5-11, time on third turn.
Wanganeen Miller restarts play for the Saints. Kick short to Howard.
What do we thought of? Sorry, Corbett, you say you commented earlier around so many of their best team out. I think we can revisit that maybe after the game. Not so sure about that. Yep. The Saints at the moment. I think I'll maybe give you one or two, but I think what we've seen over the last 4 weeks, Corb, is that some are going to find it pretty hard to get back in.
I agree with you. I think the forward line in particular is probably where I was focused.
Yep, that's fair. Yeah, King and Memory are the two incumbents, aren't they? But yeah, beyond that, not so sure.
I agree.
Saints switch play to the outer side. Wood, lovely delivery inside the centre square to find Crouch. He's marked in front of Humphrey. Hand passes over the top to Sinclair from right half forward. Chips it inside the arc where Butler's taken the mark, 49 from home. He wants to play on quickly, kicks into the corridor. Kamenides in there. But Higgins, I think, has claimed the mark. He has. In front position. A couple of goes at it, and the umpire's paid it.
I'm sure we'll pick it up after the game, but Man of Steel probably rolls up and gets a game when he's ready as well. So
squeeze the captain back in.
Someone's going to miss out, and they're going to be very unlucky.
So Higgins from 35 out.
What's he do here? Is he going to go to the left foot, is he?
He's lining up for that, Bally. He's already kicked
to kicking it straight.
3. All of them were around the corner to make it 4.
That's a bit silly, isn't it?
It's away to the left. So Nigel back out to 45. Saints 13-8, 86 to the Suns, 5-11, 41. 26 played here in the third term.
It is a good problem to have. Memory top 5 in the BNF last year, and yet I'm not so sure you want to be leaving out Caminiti or Owens or Filippo or any of these guys in that forward line at the moment. And Higgins and Butler both firing, so it's a forward line that's humming at the moment as the Suns come out of the defensive arc through Weller, but a free kick. Moyle giving one away against his opposing ruckman Marshall. Shares it with Sinclair, kicks across the ground, and here's Clark. Centre square, short kick. Higgins takes the mark, centre half forward. He arcs out to the right. He loads up, drives it as deep as he can to the line, and it's touched. Just a metre short. Kicked it straight though on the drop punt, something he didn't want to do. The previous shot, Paulie from 30 out. Saints by 45.
I reckon when you go on the left from 45, might be time to...
Weller's kick in down the corridor. Wasn't a great one. Picked off by Crouch. He gives it to Sinclair. Shoots the pass into the pocket. Knocked away from Owens. Filippo rather ricochets to Miller, who gives it to Humphrey. His kick to the wing. Patton did well against Ainsworth to win the one-on-one, and then over the top to Crouch, who loops the hand pass over the top to Butler at right half forward in two different minds. Hand passes defensively to Crouch. This time kicks into the pocket to a leading Higgins. Off hands. The row from Butler ricochets off Weller out of bounds. We've got a ball in right forward pocket for St Kilda. They lead by 46.
Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Yeah, Liam Stocker on the boundary has just had an ankle attended to. The doctor was having a look at it. He's had it restrapped, but still no movement yet from Jack Bytel, the technical sub.
Time on, deep in the third turn from the boundary throw in. Crouch spun around, got a hand pass back into congestion. Powell extracts it, gives it to McPherson. Kicks out wide, tumbles out of play. Says deliver. He was against the boundary line himself at half-back, kicked it out of the defensive arc, it bounced twice, went out of play, and the said not enough intent to keep that alive. Free kick for Patton and St Kilda, short kick to Marshall. And marks in the junction of the 50 in the boundary line. What have we thought of Ned Moyle tonight, the man on debut for the Suns?
Liked his work at stoppage, at centre bounce in particular. Yep. He's certainly a big boy. I think it's going to be a good lesson for him, really. I think, the player like Marshall is who he should be aspiring to be.
Marshall kicks to the top of the goal square. Caminiti competes, no mark. Spills down to Sinclair, jams it on the boot. Marked by Powell. Says not 15. Trying to get there on the line. Gresham trying to throw a boot at it. It's through for a rush behind. Would have been a miraculous goal as Powell was trying to backpedal over the goal line. He does so successfully at the end. St Kilda lead the game by 47. 29 minutes travelled third quarter.
Weller brings the ball in for Gold Coast. Long to the outer side. Holman in the contest. Goes to ground. Hill close to the line. Holman crashes into Hill and takes him over the line as well as the ball. We've got a ball in front of the interchange gates on the dock side of the ground. Jess Webster and Corbin Middlemass calling the action this evening. Karen Peterson and Luke Boyer experts, and Ian Cohen on the boundary. Secured it by 47, close to three-quarter time. Ball back into play. Moyle palms it down. Crouch pushed off it. Rao doing the chasing. Patton, his kick smothered. Ricochets to Swallow, who can't collect. And we've got another boundary throw in front of the interchange gates here in front of us in our commentary position.
The SMS 0437 774 774. John from Gippsland. What's the crowd? Looks very disappointing.
Oh, I reckon it's pretty good for Gold Coast on a Saturday night, Easter weekend.
Yep.
What do you reckon, Cool?
Bucketing down as well when people were coming to the footy. I don't think it's too bad. As Bradley Hill has just got the radar fixed on Darcy McPherson, mows him down, heavy tackle. The ump says he got him a little high. Free kick, McPherson back flank for the Suns. You reckon, Kez? How many here?
Late 20s?
Oh,
yeah.
I'm a terrible judge, so...
Oregon, late 20s. Yep. Kick down the wing, ends up with Patton. Their hand pass to Clark's out of play. And Ben from Terrelgan went to the game last night. Proud of my Roos. Good effort against 22 of them. I think he's referring to the 4 umps that were out there as well. In all seriousness, the Kangas are on the right path. Nice to hear from you, Ben. So, a bit of flavour from the Gippsland area. 0437 774 774, the SMS.
Saints by 47 from the ball in. Hill can't take it cleanly. Marshall on his hands and knees, can't trap it. Ross laying a tackle against Rowell. The ball's locked up. We've got a ball up, centre wing, top side.
Swans to the scoring end. The Randwick end of the ground, so they lead it by 13 points, approaching three-quarter time in Sydney against Port.
Marshall wins the tap, straight down to Anderson of the Suns. His hand pass missed Rowell. It's over the line for a throw-in. In front of the interchange gates here on the wing. Secured by 47.
And earlier today, the Dogs by 5 over the Tigers. Adelaide by 39 over Freo. Harry Mackay offered a one-game ban for his striking charge. Late hit on Harry Sheasel last night from the boundary throw-in. Filippo kicks it forward, ends up out of bounds. Now here we go. The umpire has signalled insufficient intent and it's out of bounds. And he's saying that he's paid that before the siren went. This is a bit different than a couple of weeks ago when we had that. And he's telling Darcy McPherson, you can take the free if you want. He's on the half-back flank. I have no idea why he instructed McPherson to go and collect the footy. He stood there like he was ready to take the kick. McPherson thought, what am I meant to do with this?
Did the umpire not hear the siren?
And then hands it back to Cameron Dorr, the umpire. That was bizarre. Almost just making a point that we had that rule clarified in round 2, Fremantle North, and this is how it's applied.
Yep.
And so he gave the free kick to...
Goes on the stat sheet.
He'd have to kick it 200 metres if he was to score from that position. And
interesting, Corby, that Miller's just dragged all of his sons in and he's given them a fair bake at the moment, just from what I can see.
Followed a similar theme, Kez, at third quarter to the second. So Suns kicked the first goal, Saints kicked the next 5. It's exactly what happened in the second quarter. It's repeated here in the third. St Kilda by 47 points. So if you followed that flow of scoring, that means St Kilda have kicked 10 of the last 11 in the game. Three-quarter time at Docklands, St Kilda 13-10, 88. The Gold Coast 5-11, 41. A match in which the Suns led by 9 points at the 8-minute mark of the second term. It's now three-quarter time here. St Kilda by a wide margin in Sydney. It's almost three-quarter time. The Swans lead Port Adelaide by 13. The thoughts of Karen Peterson and Luke Ball in just a moment on ABC Radio, News Radio, Sport Digital, and now streaming through the ABC Listen app. This is Grandstand, AFL.
ABC Listen. Rampaging Royce Laven and HG Nelson.
I note that some people don't use logbooks anymore.
What?
Yeah.
They don't know cos, sine, all that
cosine, cosine, cotan. They're all great.
Lodging on the blind side.
Why don't they do it?
I don't know.
Royal Commission. What happened to the logbook? I loved it. I used to open it up. Could we get Volandis to drag the logbook
kicking and screaming back into our universities?
Podcast available now on the ABC Listen app.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Back to Moyle, kick inside forward 50. It's dropped by Sinclair. Jeffrey pounces for the Suns. Shares it with Holman, gives it back to Jeffrey, dribbles through a goal. Royal against Owens in the ruck. Owens wins that tap down as Sinclair. Right foot snap in the pocket is an absolute beauty.
In front of the interchange gates, pulls the trigger back inboard. Sinclair awake to it, steals it. Saints a chance downhill. 2 bounces, hands it to Caminiti. 40 out, goal.
Saints fans a little restless in the stands. Hill this time plays on from the arc and decides, I'll just go myself.
Saints want to go. Hand pass to Butler, hand pass to Ross. Hurried kick inside the forward 50. Backpedaling Owens. Marks plays on. Hand pass to Cordy. The party continues.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Sounds there from the third quarter. More of the same. St Kilda outscoring the Gold Coast 5-1 in that term, and they've blown it out by 47 points. They look like they're going to start 4-0, which will equal their best start since 2010. What a start to the year it's been under Ross Lyons. Start of his second tenure, of course, in charge of St Kilda. Luke Ball and Karen Peterson on Grandstand AFL.
Well, we talked about it, a St Kilda party in that third quarter. They got on top in absolutely every statistical category, and it's hard not to like what they're doing. I mean, realistically, their possession, or the way that they're owning possession at the moment, they're up plus 70 in the disposal, so they're just completely owning the ball. But the most impressive thing is that they're plus 7 in contested possessions, and we spoke about in the pre-game that's the Gold Coast go. They like the ground balls. They are number 1 ranked in the competition for contested possessions. So for St Kilda to be plus 7 in contested possessions, but for mine it's plus 74 in uncontested possessions. They're just totally owning the inside and then absolute domination on the outside. The one thing that's letting them down at the moment is their inside 50 efficiency. They're going at 55%, so probably the one area of the ground that they could improve is that, but otherwise it's basically just rolling out, isn't it? They're just doing training drills. They've got way too much time, possession, with ball in hand. Jack Sinclair is just having an absolute field day across half forward. He's afforded the ability to slip over, stand up, and then still decide between 3 targets where he's going to kick to. So the disappointing thing from Gold Coast is that they haven't been able to really win in any area of the game tonight. And I did pose this question halfway through, Bally, to you, but geez, I'd hate to be a Gold Coast forward right now. The way that they're entering inside the forward 50 is deplorable. Ben King had 1 touch in that third quarter, and Casbold had 3, but it's the prime movers of Lukosius that only had 3 touches, and Matt Rowell, if you can believe this, only had 1 touch himself. So the guys that you want from the Gold Coast with the ball in their hand, they're just not doing it, and that's not Ben King's fault, and it's certainly not Casbolt's fault. It's the delivery of the half-backs and the half-forwards to them, and the midfielders that are running through. They're just really letting their teammates down.
Yeah, it's a weight of numbers thing. There's no doubt about it. It's been a strength of the Saints this first month. They're really sharing the load. There's no real standouts. They're all playing their role, having their moments. They've just had a greater contribution across the ground. It's been too much, too few for the Gold Coast. If it's not Miller or Anderson, it's really fallen away. Weller's tried pretty hard, but look, they do have young players all over the ground. We know that, but the effort's the one thing that you really want to see from some of these players. And you mentioned King. I'd love to see him up the ground a bit more. I take your point. I think that quarter in particular, the ball use coming inside 50 was really tough for a forward, but are they really working hard down there? Are they providing the options? Are they getting to as many contests as they can? I'd like to see him. I think you called it that quarter. I'd like to see him even on the wing for a bit, or can he have a little run on the ball? I'm not sure. I know he's coming back from a knee, but just need to see him freed up a bit, see him get his hands on the ball.
The Saints by 47 points. Final term underway as Marshall wins the head out down to Gresham as he's been tackled. Got a hand pass out. Ump says it wasn't enough of a hand pass. It was a throw. And a free kick for the tackler. And Noel Anderson, who can get the centre break for the Suns, kicks him deep to the Lockett end of the ground. A hands on it from Casbolt, no mark. Falls through to Sinclair, who's been everywhere again tonight. Hand pass to Welke out to halfback. And Mitch Owens takes it clean above his head. He's had a superb night, the St Kilda forward. Saints by 47, 30 seconds into the final term.
Disposal number 23 for Owens. 16 of those contested as Caminiti has a fly on the outer side. He's given away the free kick. Sam Collins to take the footy for Gold Coast. They trail by 47. Collins will just load up and send a bomb to half forward. Casbolt! It's called touch play on, so he has to wheel around and kick to a dangerous position at the top of the square. Wood got hands to it, couldn't complete the mark. And now Wilkie picks it up for the Saints, gives it to Battle, and now Sinclair hand passes to Patton in the left back pocket, gets the kick away down the line. Collins in best position against Caminiti, but the boundary line beats them both. We've got a throw in at half forward for Gold Coast. They trail by 47, a minute played, final term.
Rob in London, who we heard from earlier. Hi team, I have arrived in Bristol now and I'm a much less anxious St Kilda fan. Thanks for the great call and happy Easter. The Saints by a wide margin here for the boundary throw in. Miller tried to just put the burners on and get away from Crouch. He was caught in the tackle. We all thought that was a pretty straightforward holding the ball call. The ump says ball up. Tosses it in the air. St Kilda fans ain't happy. Moyle wins the hit out from the restart. Saints scoop it up through Burns, receives a handball and then slides out of play. And the boundary throw in high half forward for the Suns. From Maryland in WA, hello to my old Terrelgan friends and Saints supporters. We're headed for top of the table, yay. I think there's also, I'll come back to that. Sorry, Jess.
Ball back into play. Rowell takes possession. He's tackled immediately. We've got a ball up at right half forward.
Usually hear from a lot of people from Myrtleford too, where they're the Saints down there, and obviously as a result support the Saints in the big league. Crouch,
hand pass looking for Hill. He's almost taken by Long, has a fumble. Hill regains possession. His tackle. We've got another ball up at right half forward for St Kilda. The lead is 47.
And Jan in Newcastle loving Karen's commentary tonight. Karen's up in the box with us for the first time this year.
Saints win it out of the contest. Kick long down the line, picked up by Gresham, who gives it to Owens. Has to get around Ballard and does so. Slips the tackle, has a bounce. Hand passes inboard to Windhager, who's spun in the tackle and dispossessed. And it's a sling tackle. Advantage is paid. The kick inside 50. Andrew with the spoil for the Suns, then gets possession, gives it to Miller. He's kicked to the outer side wing over the head of Battle and Lukosius. Out the back is Howard, who gets around Casbolt, loops the hand pass over the top to Crouch.
Crouch, hand pass to Windhager, collects city wing for St Kilda. Feeds a hand pass forward to Ross. Runs and has a bounce. He has a second as he blows by Rao. Just inside the boundary line to Hill, top of the goal square. Knocks it down. Collins for the Suns. Hand pass to Long. She tried to get past a couple. There's a high fend-off here. There was a fend-off straight into the face of Jack Higgins. And Higgins has worn one, and so as a result, he'll get the free top of the goal square.
He's worn one. He's made sure the umpire's seen it too. Goodness me. Anyway, he's had a pretty rough night, Ben Long, against his old team. One to forget.
It was WrestleMania last weekend. He sold that well. Jack Higgins, as he bends through number 4. He's kicked 8 in 2 weeks and counting. And Jack Higgins, in his second year as a Saint, moves his team to 14-10-94. Gold Coast 5-11-41. Saints by 53 points, 4 minutes into the final turn.
Was that in the shoulder or was it actually
mostly in the chest? Yeah,
he's sold it, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, he has. He certainly has. But when things are going your way, you get the calls too, don't you, Kez? So
yeah, you could consider yourself fairly unlucky if you were Ben Long in that one, though.
You can. Yeah, it can be pretty lean down there for small forwards at times. So when things are going your way, you've got to make hay, don't you? He's certainly doing that at the moment. As you said, Corb, 8 in 2 weeks, and I reckon it's been eight around the corners too, hasn't it? Just get one straight.
Saints now with the last 6, back in the middle. Marshall laying a tackle and forcing a secondary ball up. Rao.
Yeah, Matty Rao getting tackled again.
So Moyle against Marshall. Moyle picks it up off the ground, then immediately tackled by Marshall, and we've got another ball up. Still inside the centre circles. Saints with the last 6 of the game after the Suns got within 16 with the first goal of the third. One-way traffic since then as Miller from the contest gets boot to ball, wobbles it to half forward. Holman overran it. King picks it up. His hand pass missed Holman, and now it's a turnover. Burns releases Ross by hand, has a couple of bounces along the dockside wing, then gives it to Sinclair. Hand passes to Filippo. Hand passes over the top, inside 50 to Cordy, who's immediately tackled. Umpire says play on. Filippo picks it up, then to Cordy, then to Sinclair, all by hand. He's kicking to the pocket looking for Gresham. falls at his feet. He's tackled immediately. We've got a ball up in the right forward pocket for St Kilda. They lead by 53. 6 minutes played, final term.
Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Jack Vitale with the shirt off. We're just working out who the sub that is going to be put on the pine now.
Thanks, Koza, from the restart. Andrew kicks out of the defensive 50 to 2 number 7s. Wangadeen Miller are leaping from the back, but Holman paid the mark in front. Vitale played round 1 against Fremantle, had 16 and 1 and got hurt. Didn't come back into the team obviously until tonight. Koza.
Rowan Marshall is the man who is making way for Jack Vitale.
There you go. So it's been a big night against Ned Moyle on debut and now tapped out of the game. Start of this final term, Saints by 53 as the Suns switch it from one back flank to the other. Ballard off the right back flank. Kicks it short to McPherson. Got there on the half volley. High up and under down the wing. And Powell's going to take the juggled mark as he comes back down to earth.
He's kicking to the corridor, looking for Humphrey, the first gamer. Dodges a couple of would-be tacklers. Then from centre-half forward, bangs it to the top of the square. Howard playing in front against King. He takes another intercept mark. Howard and Wilkie have done it all in the back half tonight. And as Howard short to Vitale, the sub, who then kicks out wide to Wanganeen Miller. Kicks down the line to Hill, who's in space. Chips it forward to Wood, who's marked just forward of centre, then wheels around and kicks it to centre-half forward, knocked away from Filippo. Out the back is long for the Suns. He goes to ground. McPherson goes in hard, tackled by Owens. And we've got a ball up, 40 out from Saints goal.
And we suspect that's just a tactical sub to Rowan Marshall. He's
done the job tonight.
Yeah. We'll have a size mismatch next week, you'd think, with Collingwood. Without a recognised ruckman, what a game that's going to be next Sunday to bring the curtain down on gather round. As the Suns quickly move it up to halfway through Huego Oya, but he turns it over to Howard and Howard gives it straight back. Sexton takes the intercept mark. Outer edge centre square, plays on by hand to Will Powell, who's off and running city wing. Kicks it deep inside 50. Superb kick to Ainsworth. And Ben Ainsworth marks right half forward, 30 out, 5 in from the boundary line.
There's a lot to like about Will Powell, isn't there?
Yep.
He's a real shining light in his Suns team. Had some rotten luck with injuries over his first few years, but looks like he's nice and fit and ready to emerge as a really good player.
It's been a dirty night for the Suns. This man playing his 100th game. He's got a goal at least to cap it off. Ben Ainsworth hooks it through. It ends the run of 6 consecutive St Kilda goals. 14-10 to 6-11. St Kilda's lead back to 47 points. 8.5 minutes into this final term.
They're worth their weight in gold, aren't they? Particularly midfielders who are able to pinpoint forwards leading. And just to highlight what we've been talking about, Bally, it's 13-2 marks inside forward 50. That being one of them. And we've talked all night about the inefficiency of the Gold Coast being able to go inside their forward 50 and to hit a target. And I've kept an eye on Ben King all night. He's so frustrated at the delivery. Hasn't taken a mark. And for a big bloke, that's not really good enough. But that's not his fault a lot of the time. I take your point, what you said before, Ball. He's got to work into the game, but being able to hit your teammate to their advantage is important as well.
From the restart, picked up by Humphrey out of the middle, gives it to Tuke Miller, hooks it around the corner to centre-half forward, over the head of Oaya. Now at the back is Roses, then Oaya picks it up. His hand pass straight to Sinclair of St Kilda, who gives it to Windhager, and then gives it to Crouch, who has a fumble, then gives away a free kick to Rao. Quick to play on, a player in space inside forward 50 is Ainsworth, knocked away from him from Burns, and now the Saints win out Hill. His kick out wide to Vitale, who's marked at right half back.
With a strapping on that left knee that he hurt in round 1 on this ground, he's going to chip his kick short to Crouch. Crouch looks inboard. Great kick. Stocker running in behind the umpire, takes the mark. Turns and kicks St Kilda deep inside 50. Cordy trying to work his way to the front. It's Owens who marks. He plays on and puts through his second. Mitch Owens, you can't keep him out of the game. The Saints cracked the ton. 15-10-100. Gold Coast 6-11-47. 11 played, final term. And Mitch Owens, just that type of competitor every team craves.
Well, he's an emerging star, isn't he? Well, that's what we're seeing. feels like he's been around for a while, but and there's been a lot more talk about some of the higher draft picks, I guess, Kes. But yeah, he is might have got away with a little shove in the back, but gosh, he's taking his opportunity, and he just looks like such a confident. He looks like a 100-game player, doesn't he? Really, not a 20-game player.
Does he play in front of memory?
Oh, at the moment, yeah, it's not him going out of the team, that's for sure, Corb. Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be eligible for a rising star, but what a talent, what a find. He's big, he's strong, good overhead, and kicks it well.
Out of the middle, Clark tried to fend off Humphrey, got pinged for holding the ball. Now off to Anderson, who kicks a long ball into the pocket to a contest. Off hands Miller to Sexton. The outside of the boot is pure class from Alex Sexton. Here the tactical sub comes into the game and gets a goal to his name. So St Kilda 15-10-100 to the Suns 7-11, 53, 12 played final term on Grandstand AFL. Karen Peterson and Luke Ball, your experts.
That was a really classy finish, wasn't it? They just bobbled the ball around and took his time, Sexton, just to put that on the outside of the boot and banana it through, which we all know modern day players now, they practice those sort of things poorly, so that's in his bag of tricks, but a great finish. St Kilda won't like this. They won't like that they've just given up 2 goals in this quarter. They pride themselves at the moment, particularly under Ross Lyon, and we all know the story there about their defensive ability to not concede too many points, so they won't be happy with that.
Meanwhile, it's 19 points the difference. 13 minutes to go in Sydney. The Swans leading Port Adelaide there. We'll keep you updated as Humphrey tries to trickle the ball inside 50 off his left peg, turns it over, Crouch to Stocker to Clark to Ross, all by hand off the half-back line. He kicks out to Hill in a one-on-one. Kind bounce for Weller, collects, runs straight into trouble. Hand pass out in front of McPherson, but he's going to be pinked for holding the ball. Didn't dispose of it correctly in the two-man tackle, and Brad Hill will take the free for the Saints. He chips it inside the forward arc. Owens has to spoil, falls down to Ainsworth of the Gold Coast. Hand pass away to McPherson. Gives it some air, kicks it out in front of Lukosius. Pressure from Wilkie. Falls down St Kilda's way. Phillippo, hand pass to Wilkie. He can kick inside 50.
To a contest, it goes to ground. And Butler picks up the footy. Is stripped of it by Andrew. Umpire says play on. It spills to McPherson, who kicks to the outer wing as the St Kilda play down. I think it's Bytel as the ball hits Bytel and the trainer. The umpire says, let's have a ball up. Bytel is in a bit of trouble. He's obviously got that knee strapped up, and there's a couple more physios and a doctor come to Bytel. As we just get another look on the replay. Oh, that left knee was just caught in a tangle with Holman.
Yeah, unfortunately his studs were...
The crowd's just seen it on the big screen as well, so not great news.
Sorry, Jess, his studs were stuck in the ground and he was rotated and twisted while the weight of his defender was on his legs, so it doesn't look great. He's able to put a little... No, he's not actually. He's tried to put some weight on his leg, but he's not able to.
So the 23-year-olds...
Sorry, Jess. I reckon it might be his ankle more so than that knee that's heavily strapped, or maybe I'm hoping, but yeah, I feel it might be his...
Yeah, the risk with that's that syndesmosis, high ankle injury that we see, and that's not good news.
On his ankle, but he's starting to put a bit more weight on it now, so hopefully it's not too bad.
We'll get down to Koza in a moment to see what he can see from the restart. It's knocked out of play, so we'll have another boundary throw in. Opposite side of the ground, Jack Bytel helped off by a couple of trainers. Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Yeah, Cobby is at least putting weight on it at the moment. He has waited all night to get on. He's been on for about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, and he's shaking the head as he makes his way. The training staff have worked straight towards him, but they're going to have a look at the ankle first, I believe, so they're going down to the lower part of his leg at the moment.
Thanks, Koza. Swans by 3 goals over Port halfway through the final quarter in Sydney. It's St Kilda by 47 here as it was at three-quarter time. Hurried kick forward from the Suns, picked off by Stocker, takes on the tackler on his way through. Hand pass back inboard, strapping for it, Clark extracts it. Got a hand pass out, City wing to Hill. Feeds it back by hand to Crouch. Hand pass to Ross. He's just going to kick a high ball inside the forward 50. Hopes someone can leap at it. And in the end, Ballard outmarks Owens, takes the intercept. Oh, dangerous kick across goal. Trying to find McAndrew, and Ryan Burns gets himself in front of the Gold Coast defender and plucks it. Well, that's emblematic of the night for the Gold Coast Suns. Just trying to easily switch the play across goal, and St Kilda alert to it. Just ready to swarm on anybody in a red and gold uniform. Here is Ryan Burns, directly in front, not a noted goal kicker. That's probably why. 30 out straight in front, he misses. Saints by 8 goals neat, 16 played in the final term, 15-11 to 7-11.
Harsh but fair, I think. Corby as Collins brings it in for the Suns. Short to Andrew, gives it off to Weller. His kick smothered by Butler. He's brought to ground by Swallow. They all dive on top, and we've got a ball up right half forward for St Kilda. They lead us 48. 16 played, final term. Cordy into the ruck for the Saints with Marshall subbed out. Palms it down to Humphrey, who's tackled immediately, and we'll do it all again. Let's get down to Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Yeah, Jack Bytel, his night is well and truly over. He's headed down with the medical staff down the race now for St Kilda.
Thanks, Koza from the restart. Rao got a hand pass out to his mate Anderson. Pick 1 and 2 back in 2019. He hits up Casbolt, who presents and marks. Now, where's he going here? He decides to come wide to Roses. Kicks it over his head, slips out of play. King was running back towards goal. He had both Howard and Wilkie with him, and Casbolt tried to pull the kick wide, kicks it out of play. Suns have a Friday night fixture next week. Is it more a Friday evening fixture? It's the early game in Adelaide out at Norwood Oval. A second day of gather round.
From the ball in, Anderson, kick smothered by Hill. It ricochets to Cordy. His kick smothered by Anderson. They scrap for it at half forward for the Suns. Miller and Anderson laying a tackle on Clark. Umpire's looking over it and says holding the ball. Free kick to Noah Anderson. Right on the paint of 50. He wants to give it off. He kicks towards Casbolt on the lead, and he's dropped a chest mark. Chases after it, then tackled by Hill. Gets the hand pass away. Powell picks it up at half forward, gives it to Anderson, dances around Windhager, almost a blind kick inside 50, but it comes off as Holman takes the mark in the left forward pocket that Casbolt perhaps should have taken a few moments ago.
Yeah, he should have, yeah. Anyway, they get it there in the end. Credit to Noah Anderson, he's certainly been the Suns' best player today. He's tried his backside off all game, 33 possessions, 10 tackles, so he's tried very hard tonight.
Nick Holman from the left forward pocket for Gold Coast. Shoots towards goal and steers it home. Lead back to 42. St Kilda 15-11, 101. Gold Coast 8-11, 59. 19 minutes played. Final term on Grandstand AFL. The Suns, well, they've evened up the last quarter at least. Saints by 47 at three-quarter time and 42 at the moment.
It was a good finish by Holman in the end on the left peg, but spoke before that St Kilda won't be happy with this finish. We talked about the number 1 rank for scores against this season at about 55 they average, and that's where the Gold Coast, actually they've already beaten that, so they won't be too happy with that. But again, a great finish. Tipping there's a fair bit of shaking of the head going on in the Gold Coast coach's box at the moment. Just too many mistakes and highlighted there by Casbolt just dropping a chest mark.
Saints' biggest score of the year already, 101 and counting. Back in the middle, Moyle wins it down to Anderson, hurried kick to centre half forward, spills down to the Saints though. Clark receives a hand pass and then kicks it out wide to Windhager. He turns, heads down to half forward with the target over the head of him and Andrew, and out of play. So big game for the Saints on Sunday against Collingwood. We thought at one point it may have been 2 unbeaten teams, both 4 and zip. The Saints will head there on top of the ladder. Collingwood will be in a bounce-back spot after that defeat on Thursday night up in Brisbane. For the boundary throw-in, Tuke Miller just throws it out in the end to Roses. Kicks down to half-forward. Swings past Casbolt. The reason for that, there was a shove. But it was Casbolt who gave the shove to Dougal Howard and a free kick to the Saints defender across half-back.
Chip short to Clark, defensive side of the dockside wing. Ross offers a short lead, so it is Sinclair on the 45, and he heads it in that direction. Sinclair marks, hand passes back to Clark from the logo centre wing. He was dumped after he kicked it, so it's going to be a downfield free kick. Sinclair comes in to remonstrate against Ben King. Meanwhile, Mason Wood at right half forward with the free kick. Kicks inboard to Crouch, who has a fumble, then regathers. Hand passes a turnover. Ainsworth for the Suns. He's turned it over. Filippo. Hand passes backwards to Sinclair. Kicks into the corridor. Caminiti at the back. Couldn't come down with it. Butler, he's almost pushing the back. The umpire says play on. It spills to Burns. He gives it to Caminiti. Hand passes inboard to Gresham. Backwards to Butler. Finally gets the kick away. And it's a goal. The Saints add another. They move out to 16-11, 107 leading Gold Coast, 8-11-59, 21 played final term on Grandstand AFL. Karen Peterson and Luke Ball are your experts.
They were lining up, weren't they, Ball? Yeah. There could have been a number of any one of 6 St Kilda players that could have kicked that. They almost nearly over-possessed it, and had the pressure of being a little bit higher from the Gold Coast, they might have actually been able to wrap that one away, but unfortunately, it was almost a little bit of a last man standing there. I think Gresham leapfrogged about 3 players and was just able to stream towards, find an open player, and Butler was happy to be on the end of it, that's for sure.
Well, the question mark was going to be about their ability to score, wasn't it? Particularly with King and Memory out. Probably the focus on defence initially with the new coach, but certainly shown over the last few weeks that they're nice and potent. Just finding different avenues. Obviously, Butler and Higgins have hit the scoreboard. We know Owens is having moments, Caminiti as well, so all positive signs for the Saints.
Backing out of the way, Cordy at the end trying to rope the tap from Moyle. Moyle realised and grabbed it out of the ruck. Hurried ball forward, Rowell there for the Suns, going to receive a free kick taken high by Sinclair. Hand pass away to Roses, drives it to the top of the goal square, back of the pack. Wilkie got hands to it and then has to follow up with pressure from Lukosius to knock it through for a minor score. Saints by 47, 16-11 to 8-12.
Just to add to that, boy, Saints have had 10 individual... No, sorry, I haven't got that wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... No, 10. 10 individual goal scorers.
Wanganeen Miller from the kick out. Ballard wanted to claim the mark, but it must have hit the ground. And then he was tackled. So we've got a ball up, left half forward for Gold Coast.
Their leading goal kicker for the year, Kaz Higgins with 9 now. So Owens has got 8. Caminiti with 5, so good spread across a number of players.
From the ball up, Crouch tumbles it down the line. Wood can't keep it alive, and we've got a throw in just forward of the interchange gates. St Kilda by 47, 23 played final term.
Spread of possessions too. A lot of guys over 14, 15 possessions. So, yeah, they really are getting a weight of numbers effort across the board at the moment, the Saints.
Jack Vitale with that ice on that left ankle. His day done, a short stay tonight. Came on as the sub and fears of a syndesmosis type injury, getting his ankle caught underneath the Suns opposition player. Bit of kick to kick here between Weller and Sinclair. Sinclair puts it back down the wing. Filippo, hand pass to Hill. He's tackled, dispossessed. Hill wanted to keep it alive. Burns sees it out of play, and a throw in high half forward for the Saints. Close game in Sydney. If you want to listen to that, the ABC Listen app. Open it up, bottom right hand corner, magnifying glass, search AFL and ABC AFL Extra. With Sydney leading by 4 points, 5 minutes to go in the final term, of course, including time on. From the boundary throw-in, passing his way through traffic. Ainsworth coughs it up though to Filippo. He hands it out to Owens. Owens threw it. Free kick from Matt Rao, half back for the Suns. St Kilda wide here. They lead it by 47 points. Time on final term.
Just like Vitale had that ice a little bit lower on his foot. The other danger with that rotating motion that he got his ankle caught in is the Liz Frank injury, which is more of a foot break. So fingers crossed he's...
Rao kicks towards the wing looking for Moyle, knocked away from him, spills to Heel, who spears a pass to Cordy at right half forward for the Saints. He wants to go inboard looking for Burns, but coming across is Awaya to make the spoil. And now Ballard, his hand pass misses Moyle, picked up by Holman. Has a couple of goes at it and then gives it to Anderson. A rush kick. Lands into the lap of Humphrey. He shares it with Oya. The dockside wing rather. It's a wobbly kick towards half forward and it's a turnover. And Callum Wilkie takes the intercepting mark inside defensive 50.
Wilkie goes short to Crouch. St Kilda just on the defensive side of halfway. Feeds a hand pass forward to Ross. Ross lifts one to Wanganeen Millera, all by hand, now to Burns. So Burns 60 out at half forward. Kicks it out in space in front of Collins and Caminiti. Ball hits the deck. Caminiti paddles it out in front of himself. Tries to collect. Fumbles. Bit of pressure. Caminiti off the deck. Wins it. Throws it out. Says throw. Free kick Suns half back. Can you just elaborate on that for us a bit, Kez, the nature of that injury?
Yeah, so essentially in the replay what you can see is his foot gets caught in the turf and there's that rotating, twisting motion. So the first obvious thought is a syndesmosis, but when I just had a look at with the ice on his lower down on his foot, the other obvious injury is a Liz Frank, which is a separation of the foot bones. So fingers crossed it's not one of those, because both of those injuries can be pretty nasty.
The Suns kick it to the outer side wing for a couple of sets of hands out of bounds for a throw-in. St Kilda by 47, 26 played, final term. Grandson AFL, Jess Webster and Corbin Middlemass calling the action. Luke Ball and Karen Peterson, your experts, and Ian Cohen on the boundary.
Karen Peterson's like our Swiss Army knife player as part of our team. Not only former pro basketballer, three-time All-Australian, physio as well. So we're able to get a great little insight across every single area that we need.
Got all your bases covered on Grandson AFL.
You're welcome.
Quick kick forward for the Suns as Ben King trying to get the half volley pick up. Got it away to Lukosius. He's tackled, dispossessed. This is Ben Ainsworth. Collects a loose footy, 60 out. Puts it inside 50. Humphrey leaps at it, but in front, Stocker takes the defensive mark. 4 years at Carlton, made the switch. In fact, lost his spot on the list at Carlton and trained with St Kilda, no guarantees. Picked up in the pre-season, now holding down a spot in this St Kilda lineup. First round pick from 4 or 5 years back. Wide to Windhager, he goes down the wing and he takes it back, Mark. Another guy who didn't have a job on an AFL list until February, and now the teenager's played all 4 games in the team that's going to be undefeated, perfect record, top of the table through the first month of the season. Kicks down to half forward. Spills off the pack to Ben Long. No clean control. In the end, almost a drop kick as he sends it 40 metres downfield to Lukosius. He can kick it 70 metres as he bangs it into the pocket. Humphrey the target in a one-on-one. Howard gets back to lend a hand. Can't collect, but inadvertently sockers it out of play.
It's been pretty good, hasn't he, Howard? Both him and Wilkie at the 1-2 punch down there. They've controlled the back end of the ground. Completely outpointed King, and Casbolt's tried hard and has had the advantage of a bit of time in the ruck, but yeah, they've been pretty dominant back there, the key post for the Saints.
15 marks between them tonight as the umpire flicks the ball back into play. Moyle against Owens in the ruck, it spills to Burns. He's tackled immediately. We've got a ball up, 20 out from the Suns' goal.
Mark in Adelaide off the SMS. How many consecutive games has Cal Wilkie played? He's up to 89 consecutive games from debut.
Owens palms it down to Windhager, just jams it on the boot, trying to exit the danger zone. It's a live ball at half forward for the Suns. Wonderfully done by Hollins to collect the footy, and then he kicks it out of bounds on the full. Free kick to Brad Crouch in the right back pocket for St Kilda. Their lead is 47-28, nearly 29 minutes played here in the final term. 2
lead changes in Sydney in the final 5 minutes. Jed McEntee put Port in front, and now the Lizard, Nick Blakey, has snatched back the lead for the Swans. So Sydney by 4, 2.5 minutes to go. Call available through the ABC Listen app. Exiting kick for the Saints from Crouch, got its way to Higgins. A 1-2 with Patton, and then the hand pass out to Burns, sends it down the wing, kicked it over Caminiti's head. And Collins takes the intercept mark, goes short to Ainsworth, he reels in a one-hander. Ben Ainsworth, the Suns' number 9. Closed down by Wood, sends a high bomb to centre half forward, hands on it from Battle. Takes the intercept mark, and here they go on the counter-attack out wide to Ross.
He chips it further afield to Higgins, who's marked on the wing position dockside. Shoots it short to Mason Wood, who wheels around and kicks long inside forward 50. Cordy in the contest, it spills to Burns, he chips it into the pocket. Oh, wonderfully done by Took Miller, who dives across Butler, gets a fist to the ball and sends it over the line for a throw-in, 30 around from goal. That's what you want to see from your co-captain late in the game.
Boundary throw-in, forward 50 for the Saints. Comes down to Cordy, feeds a hand pass inside to Higgins, snaps left boot, he's got 1 for the thumb. 5 for Higgins. 4 straight wins to start the season for St Kilda. And a 53-point margin to boot. 17-11, 1-13, Gold Coast 8-12, 60. Half-hour mark, final turn.
Well, we spoke about it when things are going well. You've got to capitalise, although here this won't look great on the tape in terms of back 50 stoppages for the Suns. They've completely run out of gas, and dangerous small forward just trotting behind the pack on his own in 20 metres of pace is not ideal at all. So these are all learnings for the Suns team. We should be expecting better. Stuart Dew should be expecting better of his team by now, but it's been a really dominant performance from the Saints from about 10 minutes into that second quarter.
From the restart, Moyle out of the ruck for the Suns, dribbles it to centre-half forward, picked up by Clark of St Kilda, who wobbles it down the line. Ferguson beat Higgins in the one-on-one, wheels around, kicks towards half-forward over the head of Ainsworth. And Stocker takes the intercepting mark and then chips it to Crouch, who's marked in front of the interchange gates on the dock side of the ground.
So Brad Crouch retreats back with the ball to Howard. Marks at half-back. He's going to swing it from one back flank to the other. Wilkie takes the mark. He goes short to Wanganeen Millerer. Looks in the middle of the ground for Clark. And he'll just poke the pass over to Stocker. So slow kick game for St Kilda in the back half. A 53-point lead. It's as wide as it's been. They've got it out to this margin on 3 separate occasions, St Kilda, in this final term. A showdown with Collingwood at Adelaide Oval next Sunday. Short kick to Clark. Kicks inside the forward 50. Weller scoops it up. Hand pass, though, went straight to Cordy. Centre half forward for the Saints. Gives it to Ross. Hand pass to Burns. He's mowed down. And Sexton with a chase down tackle at centre half back for the Suns.
Kicks to the wing. Lukosius in a one-on-one against Battle. Won the battle. Then hand passes to Andrew. Slips a tackle. Chips into the centre square. Good mark from Miller under pressure. Wants to move it on quickly. And the rejuvenated St Kilda Football Club continue their perfect start in 2023. 53-point winners over the Suns.
Oh, when the Saints go marching in, oh, how I want to be with St Kilda. When the Saints go marching in.
Scrappy but entertaining contest to kick us off in the first quarter. It was the Suns by 2 points at quarter time. They kicked the first goal of the second to lead by 9 points before the Saints turned it on. 5 in a row to lead by 22 at the half. Suns got within 16 early in the third, but from then it was all St Kilda. They blew the margin out to 47 at three-quarter time. And Jack Higgins kicked 5 goals as they ran away. 17-11, 113 to 8-12, 60 winners at Docklands.
The second coming of Ross Lyons, St Kilda have risen to outright top on the AFL ladder. They're the only team with a perfect record through 4 rounds, 4 and zip. 17-11 to 8-12, a 53-point margin, as Jess mentioned, at full time. Suns by 2 at quarter time, Saints by 22 at the half, 47 at three-quarter time. They kicked 5 goals to 1 in each of the second and third quarters. And then in the final term, they were able to extend it by just a goal. Concerns for Jack Bytel. Fears of an ankle or foot complaint as he hit that final term. Really only played 10 minutes. Rowan Marshall was subbed out before that, earlier in the fourth quarter, as a tactical sub. Higgins with 5. He was the standout for St Kilda. And then multiple goals for Hill, Owens and Caminiti. Meanwhile, for the Gold Coast Suns, no player kicked multiple goals. They're now 1-3 on the season, so a good win over the reigning premiers. And St Kilda 4 and zip to start the year for the first time since 2010. The concluding moments of a chaotic finish up in Sydney in just a moment. But first, the initial thoughts on what happened here at Docklands from Luke Ball and Karen Peterson.
Well, we'll start with the winners, Kez, and it was a powerful performance, wasn't it? As I said, from about with 10 minutes to go into that second quarter, you got the feeling that they were starting to get control of the game a bit, and we spoke at length about their running power, and that was starting to really grind the Suns into the turf, and just the Suns' younger players, they started to fatigue, made some errors, and invited the Saints' pressure and into the game. And then from pretty early in that third quarter onwards, it was all the Saints. So it was a really powerful performance. spoke about the contribution they get all over the ground. They're all really well drilled and all playing their role at the moment. They're understanding that if they do that, they're going to, maintain their spot in this team. So that was a standout, really. Too much for too few from the Suns' point of view. Anderson was great, Miller that well. They always try pretty hard, but really dropped away after that. And they're looking pretty complete at the moment, the Saints. I mean, the question mark was going to be around their scoring. We know what Ross Lyon teams do and how they've prioritised defence in this first month of footy and been really difficult to score against. But what's really standing out in the last couple of weeks is they're finding different avenues to goal and they're being a bit bolder with their ball movement. They're getting it down there and giving their dangerous forwards, be it tall or small, an opportunity to score. We know, and they've certainly found one in Owens. He's been a huge beneficiary of the opportunity that's created. And he just looks like, as we said, he looks like a 50 to 100 game player already. So really impressive. Their key backs were terrific tonight. They dominated. Across half-back, Wilkie continues his terrific career, and Howard looks back to somewhere near his best as well. So pretty complete performance, certainly in that second half across the ground. And they'll go into next week, Corb, full of confidence against the Pies.
What do you reckon, Kaz?
Yeah, I think, you're absolutely spot on, Ball. And when you often see teams going through a rebuild or a new coach or a new phase of their development, or however you want to put it, often they focus on one thing and at the expense of something else. And we knew coming in that Ross Lyon, and we've seen it through through the last probably 10 or 15 years, where teams have come in, they nail the defensive side of things and they take a couple of seasons to get the offensive game going at the same time. But whatever St Kilda's done in the off-season, whatever tweaks they've made, whatever training regime that they've done, they've been able to nail both of them. And I'm not sure there's been too many times certainly not in my time in being a football supporter, that's been the case, where a new coach comes in with a lot of, as you touched on, new players or sort of what we would have considered at the start of the season, that second tier or second ranked forwards, particularly in the offensive side of things for St Kilda, that we probably would have given them an out or an excuse to not be doing so well in that side of the game. We knew that, again, with Ross Lyon, that they'd be a great defensive team, but I certainly didn't think, and I don't think I'm alone in thinking how well they've done offensively. So that for me, that's the most impressive thing. And Corby, you spoke at the start of the game about potentially this being a bit of a danger game, coming off a really big celebration last week. They played really well for the first month of footy. You could probably forgive a lot of their younger players for reading the papers and getting a bit of ahead of themselves, but by golly, they sure as hell haven't done that, have they, Corby? So really impressive for St Kilda. Huge month of footy coming up for them, because they did have a great start to the year last year and then completely fell off the cliff. So the challenge for them is to not do that. And with some of the ins coming back in the next couple of weeks, I can't see them doing that. So really, really impressive. And on the other side of things, it's a bit of a same old for Gold Coast. They have a really impressive win one week and then cannot, for whatever reason, back it up, particularly when they come down here to Melbourne. So we've talked about it for a couple of seasons now, that needs to be the evolution of the Gold Coast Suns, and yet again, unfortunately, they just haven't been able to produce.
They're now 30-78 under Stuart Dew as senior coach. It felt like sort of time to go this year, been extended out for another couple of years, and they're playing catch-up on the season at 1-3. Bawley, we chatted about this during the call, so the injury list for St Kilda, 13 on it. I'm going to run through some names with you, and you're going to tell me if the Saints were playing tomorrow and these guys were fit, who walks straight back into their team? Jack Steele.
Yes, yeah.
Tick, he's in. Max King?
Yes.
Caulfield?
No.
Through the VFL. Billings?
No.
Zach Jones?
No. I've got three circled here, Corb. I've got King, Memory and Jack Steele. And then, question marks against Billings, Caulfield, Hayes, Jack Hayes, Zach Jones. Jimmy Webster played last week, so you could argue, and Dan McKenzie's probably the other one.
So McKenzie's, probably in career best form. But
that's right, yeah. But so if it's King, Memory and Steele, it's probably from tonight's team. It's probably Cordy, probably Caminiti. I think at some stage he'll fatigue a bit, so you'd think by the middle part of the year he'll need a spell.
Yep.
Cordy, Caminiti, and Bytel, out of the 23. And then it's probably you're looking at guys like Burns and Windhager at the moment. They're fit and strong. They're in the team possessions 9/10 of the law. So, and that's how Ross coaches too. If they're playing their role, they're doing their bit. He's big on integrity and selection. They'll stay in the team. So it's a good problem to have.
Saints win by 53 points. Let's head into the winners' rooms with Ian Cohen.
Yeah, certainly winners are grinners, Corby, no doubt about that. Plenty in the Saints room at the moment, including Jack Bytel on crutches, but he's just been welcomed into the circle. He's got ice on that left ankle. That is the early diagnosis. Here's the song.
When the Saints go marching in, oh, when the Saints go marching in, oh, how I want to be a St Kilda. Oh, when the Saints go marching in, oh, when the Saints, oh, when the Saints go marching in, oh, when the Saints go marching in, oh, how I want to be a St Kilda. Oh, when the Saints go marching in.
Thanks, Koza. Well,
so there you go. They break away now, but as I said, Jack Bytel on crutches at the moment with ice on that left ankle. We're going to talk to Seb Ross after the meeting.
Thanks, Koza. 4-0 St Kilda to start the season. I did see Ross walk past Jack Bytel too and just have a little chat to him with ice on that left ankle. 125th game for St Kilda. Ross Lyon coaching the Saints tonight. I'll start that sentence again. Ross Lyon coached his 125th game for the Saints tonight. Next week he'll equal Alan Richardson on 126, which will put him equal second all-time behind only Alan Jeans. Of course, way out in front on 333 appearances. You mentioned about the integrity at selection. I love this line from Ross. Every time you pick a team, you send a message to what you value, which I think is just a great line and certainly one that St Kilda have been able to maintain some integrity of selection despite that massive injury list, and they're 4-0 in the face of it. There's another game being played tonight. I mentioned the lead changes. McEntee put Port Adelaide in front. Blakey responded, put Sydney back ahead. Jeremy Finlayson put Port Adelaide in front by 2 points with a minute left on the clock. Here's how it played out thanks to Grandstand AFL.
Port go forward here inside 50, just about no. Rampy gathers here on the flank. At right half back, works it forward by hand to Stevens. Sweeping hand pass further afield now, only as far as Wines with a big bump from Warner. Here goes the Chad, wins it away here for the Swans. Overrun by Florent. Parker goes in hard again. Into the back of him was Dixon. The umpire says play on. Port Adelaide leads by 2 points. It's a ball up on the outer wing of the SCG.
Todd Marshall playing loose in defence for this last minute here for Port. The centre bounce, he started on the wing, rolled straight back. One of their forwards has come up to the wing, so they're playing an extra in defence.
Time ticking down. Franklin and Heaney ran into each other. They're both groggy, but they're on the field. Horne-Francis with the ball back. It bounces now for Rampy deep in defence. There's no one within 10 metres of him. Time ticking down. Sydney with one final surge. Heaney has it in the middle of the SCG. He's found a teammate. He's marked it. It's Hayward. It might just be the last kick of the game to try and win it here for Sydney. In fact, it's Florent. It's Ollie Florent. 32 disposals to his name. We are not far away from the siren going. 30 and a half minutes have expired in the last. The Port lead is 2 points. Florent will kick from 50.
He'll kick on the siren.
Siren is seconds away. Ollie Florent with the chance to win it for Sydney.
They're up.
God. I think it's touched on the line. It's touched on the line. Port have won. Port have won. The Florent kick did not make the distance. And the power players, every single one of them, jumping on top of each other just outside the goal square at the SCG. It is a 2-point Port Adelaide victory. And that makes it 7 straight against the Swans. It's an enormous one for Ken Hinkley, and fittingly, it was Aliir with the spoil in a superb individual performance.
The former Swan denies the home team. Aliir back at the SCG. The kick landing short from Ollie Florent. Port Adelaide get home to win by a couple of points. Bally and Kez, Jess, that was sort of finishing as our game was finishing, and you could see everybody looking on the monitors here and trying to work out, hang on, the game's ended here, but what's happening over there?
The look on Ollie Florent's face, he thought he kicked that. He looked absolutely heartbroken.
Big win, isn't it, for Port? Yep. Yeah, they were right under the pump after last week. And all of a sudden the Swans are under pressure a bit, aren't they?
There was only 2 games in the first 3 weeks decided by less than a goal. 3 if you include the draw. We've had 2 today, so Western Bulldogs by 5 points getting home in a close finish against Richmond, and now Port Adelaide by just 2 points over Sydney. So all of a sudden the Swans in the pack at 2-2 after looking super impressive in the first fortnight of the season. Big wins, obviously, against the Gold Coast and Hawthorn. And now a reality check against Melbourne and a close loss at home against Port Adelaide.
Do you just want to bank those early wins, don't you? The ones that, on the flip side, Port couldn't do that last year, and they had too much work to do in the second half of the year, didn't they? So, but yeah, given the last couple of weeks, that's a big win for them, just to release a bit of the pressure that's been building over the last couple of weeks.
We talk about it all the time. So that the season, Kez, as much as anything, is a game of mathematics. You've got to get to 12.5 wins, probably 13 wins, somewhere around that mark this year with a 23-game season. 12.5 is probably the over-under. St Kilda at 4-0 with 19 to play. They've got to win, less than every second game now just to qualify for the finals. So, as you touched on before, they were 8-3 at the halfway mark last year, went 3-8 on the run home. But that's a heavy down payment on a final spot with some good players to come back.
Yeah, you're spot on, Corby. I think I read a stat before, and I can't, off the top of my head, you might be able to help me out here. If you start the season 3-0,
yep,
the chance of you making the top 8, there's an incredibly high percentage.
Yeah. So 88% since 2005.
Yep.
Or 2015. Sorry. So the recent sample size is strong.
The thing is that you can't go through a 23-week season playing as well as St Kilda is right now. At some point along the line, they're going to dip in their form. That's just the nature of it. What you would hope is that once you dip, you're able to come out of it. The thing that you don't want to be doing is having your dip at the start of the year and then chasing your tail for the rest of the season. And at some point, someone's going to beat them. Probably a game that they would have expected to win, and they're going to drop it. That's just the nature of footy and the nature of such a long season. So what you'd hope is that, and what they're doing well, is banking those early wins so that the pressure doesn't come on them when they do lose that game, and it might not cost them. I obviously watch Carlton a lot, and Carlton did that last season where they dropped some games in that sort of last third of the season that they probably shouldn't have dropped, and it cost them a final spot. So it's not the tight wins that cost you, it's the ones that you should win that you don't. So what St Kilda's doing, and that makes sense, that 88% or whatever the really high percentage is that if you start your season well, you've got a couple of games up your sleeve that if you do drop one, you're not putting pressure on yourself.
The next 3 weeks, Collingwood, Carlton, Port Adelaide. How many wins?
Well, it's a good test, isn't it? Well, clearly Carlton's going to beat them. I'm going to put that one down. Mark my word. Who was the other one? Collingwood
and then Port Adelaide.
Well, look, I mean, realistically, both of those are incredibly important and great yardstick measures, aren't they? I mean, Collingwood at the moment, even though they were beaten, who beat them? Brisbane. Yeah. Got beat. You're happy with that, Jess, obviously, but... And then, Port Adelaide tonight getting over the Swans. So we're going to really know where St Kilda are in the next 3 weeks, really.
I think the one thing, Bally, that we've seen from Ross Lyon coach teams, particularly early in his tenure at a club, and there can be, you can have a whole other conversation about whether, coaches like that have a particular lifespan in a certain place, but the talk about, the fears of, they're going to have a dip after such a high, emotional level last week, 150th celebration. It feels like one thing you're guaranteed with Ross Lyon is that he has his teams ready to go and he lifts the floor immediately, that the baseline performance, no matter if they're sort of really on or really off, that margin is significantly reduced.
Yeah, from an effort point of view. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, for sure. So that'll hold him in good stead. And I think the health's a big thing, isn't it? We speak, it feels like every weekend, about who's not out there across the board, and they're starting to build a team with a bit of depth, aren't they? They're starting to build, deepish sort of list where you can have that integrity of selection. So, it's a terrific start. I think probably what we're seeing too is that, and the 8-3, the way they finished last year, there's a bit of recency bias. We probably didn't have them or didn't rate them as highly from a talent point of view, but there's plenty out there, and I think a lot of the guys who, and possibly even Ross might even admit that he not watching them closely over the last couple of years. I mean, he didn't know what an Owens was capable of, did he? Or guys like that, and even Sinclair, who looks like he's improved again from his All-Australian form, hasn't he? So it just shows you do the work, you have a good pre-season, you start to get a bit of momentum and belief within about what you're doing, and you can really get on a roll. So that's where they're at the moment. But great test next week, isn't it? They're sort of the way Collingwood are playing, they're on the rebound. It'll really test their defence next week.
The votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year. Have you got them, Kaz?
Yes, I got handballed. Beautiful. Got a hospital pass from Bally. Yeah. It'll be no surprise to you, Corby. I've gone with a defender for one vote. Look, I really could have picked 12 of the St Kilda blokes tonight. I've gone with Cal Wilkie. He had 24 touches at 92%. He had 5 tackles and 12 intercept possessions. I thought he did a great job really setting them up as that key post back there. So no surprise, I'm sure, they're going with a defender. And then I've gone with the guy that we spoke a lot about for 2, Mitch Owens. He was fantastic. He was not a huge, he did get 27 touches. He wasn't high on their list, but geez, he was good. 19 contested, 2 goals, 2 with 7 score involvements, and 3 votes. Jack Sinclair couldn't go past him. 31 touches, 71%, 9 score involvements, 6 intercept possessions, and a goal. By far the best on the ground.
3 for Sinclair, 2 for Owens, 1 for Wilkie. Kez, lovely to see you.
Thanks, Corby. Have fun.
Thanks to Kez Peterson. I'll see you in Adelaide, Bally.
Forward to it, Corb.
Thursday night to start gather round. Thanks to Jess Webster. Thanks to Ian Cohen. We'll get some reaction from the Saints rooms, which you'll hear across the weekend on Grandstand AFL. Thanks to the cult figure Adam Jones back in the studio, to Stu Baker for running the show here at Dockland. So Port Adelaide by 2 points in a tense finish against Sydney, and here at Dockland, St Kilda by 53 points. The only team with a perfect record through 4 rounds. They sit outright top on the AFL table. See you tomorrow from 12 noon.